What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was the powerless one until he bonded with a fallen angel? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. It was early in the morning as many people in a suburban city of Kuo were beginning their day. Many had happy or bad moods considering the morning, since it was either going to good or bad. For one person, it was more dreadful than anything today, since today was the first day of their new academy life. Walking along the sidewalk was a fairly tall, 5 feet 9 feet, fair-skinned 18-years-old teenage boy that had spiky blonde hair that had cheek-length bangs framing either side of his face with blue sapphire eyes. He wore an academy boy's uniform, which consisted of a black blazer with white accents that was opened over a white, short-sleeve shirt, matching black pants, and brown dress shoes. The young teenage boy was Naruto Namikaze, the newest transfer student in Kuo Academy. He was recently transferred to the academy by his guardian, since he thought it was a good idea for him even though Naruto doesn't want to. Arriving in front of the academy gates, he quickly gained attention from all of the academy students, mostly from the female students which he is used to, that were trying to get to class before the late bell. Naruto is a very handsome young teenager, and while his clothing kept his body hidden from view, he has a lean, muscular, toned build that many young men would want, six-pack abs. As he walked into the academy building, his thoughts were running a mile a minute on his current predicament. He went to his assigned class where he was greeted by the female teacher, where she told him to wait outside of class where she would introduce him. Alright class, before we begin with today's lesson, I would first like to welcome new student. Please introduce yourself, Namikaze-san. The woman introduced as Naruto slid the door open and walked in towards the front of the classroom. Hello, my name is Namikaze Naruto. I hope we can get along, Naruto said as he introduced himself with a slight bow. Accepting the introduction, the female teacher looked back at her class. Thank you for the introduction. Now where to seat you? Where she scanned her class before finding a seat. There, an open seat next to Himejima-san. The teacher pointed out. The moment Naruto heard that name, his mind instantly halted from everything else as his eyes scanned the room until he found who he was looking for. She was young, pale-skinned beauty with a buxom figure. She has violet eyes and long black hair that was tied into a ponytail with an orange ribbon that was kept in place, while two antennas that sloped backwards. Regaining his composure, Naruto thanked the teacher before heading towards his assigned seat. Sitting down, the young beauty turned towards him. She looked at him with a polite smile. Hello Namikaze-san. My name is Himejima Akeno. Welcome to Kuo Academy. Greeting him. Normally, Naruto would be pleased with the greeting, but he could tell from her eyes that she was looking at him with both rage and anger. It's a pleasure to meet you, to Himejima Akeno, Naruto replied, where she him a curt nod before turning back to the teacher's already began lesson plan. Naruto sighs, since of all the people he could have met today, he didn't expect he would meet her again. I bet anything that he did this on purpose. I'm so going to kick his ass, Naruto thought as he tried to pay attention to the teacher's lesson plan. I'm so gonna kick that old bastard's ass. By the time I'm done with him, God wouldn't be able to tell his face from his spleen, Naruto thought as he made his way to his penthouse apartment. After suffering an entire day of classes, which felt like an eternity, he finally made it back to his leisure home. His time in the academy was interesting enough, since he tried to avoid gaining attention, although it was impossible since all the girls in the school looked at him with mesmerizing or lustful looks. Even though he ignored most of the attention he gained, there were a few students that kept a careful eye on him. One was Rias Grimoy, the heiress of the Gremory clan, who he heard from around the school was the academy's #1 beauty and Akeno's best friend. With that in mind, there is no doubt that Rias was going to know about him from Akeno. Entering his home, he dropped his backpack near the entrance, where he went to the kitchen to get something to drink. As he got himself a soft drink, he could already sense that someone was in his living room, which he knew who it was. You have a lot of nerve coming here, old man, Naruto stated, where he walked towards his living room to see his guest. The guest was man in his early 20s with black hair and gold bangs. He wore black pants and a dark purple shirt. Hey Gaki, how's the first day of school? The elder man smirked. Screw you, Uncle Azazel. Why the hell do I have to go to school? Demanded Naruto. Isn't it obvious? I sent you there so can have a social life. By going to school, you'll actually be able to have more of an active lifestyle instead of constantly training yourself. Azazel answered with a casual shrug that caused Naruto to get a tick mark on his head. Well, if you actually send me out on more missions like everyone else, then I wouldn't have that problem. Naruto shot back where Azazel just placed an uninterested face as he picked his ear with his pinky. Like I said, you need to socialize more. Besides, I can't let you do every mission we have. How else will the other gain any experience? The old man asked with a shrug. I can understand that part. But why did you put me into that school? Asked Naruto as he looked at his guardian intently. What? Don't tell me you don't like the school? Azazel innocently asking Naruto, which earned him a glare. Oh, cut the crap. You know what I mean? You knew that she would be there. Yelled Naruto, where Azazel grew a serious face. I believe that it's about time you two reconcile with each other. It's been what, 8 years? Azazel asked the young blonde, where he deflated. I would like nothing more to be friends with her again. But she clear wants nothing to do with me, or with any of us for that matter. Naruto stated, remembering the look that Akeno gave him earlier. He suddenly felt a hand on his shoulder and saw his uncle offering a sympathetic look. I know how you feel. I love Akeno too. Like you, I saw her like she was like family to me. I miss the good old days when you, your parents, and I would spend our days having fun with her and her parents. It's been years since you two have spoken to each other. However, you shouldn't give up since you two were the best of friends when you were children. A friendship like that would never go away completely. She may say that she wants nothing to do with you, but I know that there is still a part of her that still sees you as her friend, even if she doesn't want to admit it. Azazel explained, where Naruto remained silent after hearing his uncle's words. Naruto looked at Azazel straight in the eye. Do you really think that it's possible for us to be friends again? Even after all this time? Asking the older male in the room. Well, it's not going to happen if you don't try and talk to her, will it? Besides, if you're still worried about that, then don't. You've already mastered it from what I can see, so you shouldn't be afraid of it now. This is why I sent you to the school, since it's no better place to talk to her, since the both of you will have to act like normal students instead of supernatural beings. Azazel stated with a smirk, causing Naruto's eyes to widen. That's the real reason you enrolled me into that school? To help me reconcile with Akeno? Asked Naruto in shock. You may believe that you hide it well, but I know for a fact that you've been missing her. Things have slowed down, so I thought this would be the best time to try and talk to her. He explained to Naruto, which caused him to smile. Huh, and here I thought you were doing this to just piss me off. Admitted to Azazel, where he looked back at his guardian, only to feel a sense of dread when he saw the gleam in the man's eyes. So tell me, has little Akeno-chan grew into a hottie like her mother? Azazel asked, where Naruto blushed as he remembered on what Akeno looks like now. He couldn't deny that Akeno has grown into a beautiful young woman, where any guy would be lucky to have her as girlfriend or wife. Naruto growled as he yelled at his uncle for being a pervert. I'll take that as a yes. Azazel said with a goofy grin on his face. This is truly one of my greatest plans. Two childhood friends who used to be inseparable have been forced to drift apart from each other due to a tragedy that both suffered. Only for them to reunite years later, where their bonds are reformed and romance blooms. Where he suddenly put his left arm over his eyes, crying anime tears, where Naruto's face continued to grow redder with each moment. Shut up. Get a life, you old pervert. Shouted Naruto with an embarrassed look on his face. Oh, what's wrong? I thought you'd be glad for this since you used to have such a huge crush on Akeno-chan when you were young. Azazel stately said with a confused look. Nani? What the hell are you talking about? The young blonde shouted with a fluster. Looking confused, Azazel looked at the young boy before he put on a smirk on a knowing face. Oh. I see, it's completely understandable. He stated. Understand what, you old pervert? Naruto asked warily. You're just not ready to settle down with one woman yet. Azazel nodded in a sage-like manner. Naruto face planted on the floor at his uncle's statement. It's perfectly understandable. Even though Minato was your father who was completely satisfied with just one woman, you're still very young who likes to explore the opposite a lot more. I should know since I was young as well, where I became quite the ladies' man. In fact, I've had a couple of harems in the past. All he said before Naruto gave him a punch in the face. I don't want to hear about your playboy days, you pervert. Naruto shouted as his eyebrow twitched in annoyance. Oh well, enough fun with that. I just thought that sending you to school was something that both your parents would want you to do. Now, since I can see that you're alright after your first day, I can leave and attend a meeting," said Azazel as he goes outside to the balcony to take his leave. "Huh, what meeting? Why wasn't I told about it?" Naruto asked. "Oh, it's just small stuff for the higher-ups only. There really is nothing for you to listen in," Azazel explained, which Naruto understood. "Oh, one more thing. Getting Naruto's attention as he was on the balcony, there's someone in your school that I want you to keep an eye on." Naruto asked on who it was, which Azazel answered, "Issei Hyodo. He's a second-year student that I believe to possess a sacred gear." Where Naruto to slightly widen his eyes a bit. "Really? So what do you want me to do?" asking his guardian. "Nothing much, just observe him," Azazel said before leaving. Naruto sighed as he couldn't believe the day he had. First he started off school, then met up with his childhood friend that despise him, and finally deal with Azazel's sacred gear obsession. He put everything in the back of his head as he decides to get something to eat. Kuo Academy, a cult club. In Gothic-like room, several people were inside doing whatever activity they were doing. Among them was Akano, who was deep in thought, mostly about seeing someone from her past. Her thoughts were interrupted when she heard her best friend talk to her. "You seem rather interested in this Namikaze Naruto, Akano. You've kept an eye on him all day. Why is it?" asked the redhead girl with bluish-green eyes. Era, it's nothing. Namikaze-san was someone I knew a long time ago," Akano casually explained. "Really? I don't think I've ever met him before." Frown Rias, since Akano was her best friend for years. She basically knew everyone Akano had met. "You haven't, Namikaze-san and I used to be friends before I met you, bucko," the raven-hair beauty explained. "Chances are that he knows that I'm a devil. At the very least, he knows I'm a supernatural being," she admitted. This got everyone by surprise, with Rias and the other two occupants in the room, a young short blonde-hair boy and blues eyes wearing the academy uniform for boys. The final member was a young girl with silver hair and hazel eyes. "Really? How does Naruto-senpai know this?" asked the blonde boy. "Since he was young, Namikaze-san always had a high sensing ability. Heck, I couldn't even sneak up on him when we were young," Akano explained. "If he knows you are a devil, then he'll know about the rest of us?" Rias asked with a raised eyebrow. Akano was silent for a bit before answering her question. "If he's anything like he was in the past, then he already knows. Even if he didn't, he's a smart boy when it came to things like this and won't make assumptions until he has any evidence that proves if it's either right or wrong." "Interesting, is he human?" Rias curiously asking her raven-hair friend. Akano looked at her friend as she answered her, "Only half. His mother was a full-blooded human." Taking a moment to let everyone digest the information. "His father, though, is a fallen angel." That caused the room to go silent at the mention of a fallen angel, since fallen angels are their greatest enemies for a devil. The silvered-hair girl looked at Akano with a monotone look. "Is he a threat?" asking with curiosity. Akano thought for a few moments, getting her thoughts together about it. She then looked at everyone. "If you want my honest opinion, he's not a threat. If he's still the same as he was back then he won't strike unless he is strike first. Devils, angels, fallen angels. Namikaze-san doesn't care about that kind of stuff." Finishing explaining to them with a small smile on her face, since that was one of the things she liked about him. "So we don't have to worry about him?" the young blonde asked. "Like I said, he will mostly likely leave us alone unless we make the first move," Akano replied. "That's good to hear. For now, we will just keep an eye on him, but if he really isn't a threat then we'll leave him alone," Rias said, where the others agreed with her. Just before the meeting could end, the youngest member of the group looked at her senior, Akano-senpai, with her emotionless tone. "Yes, Kaneko-chan," replied Akano. "You said earlier that his father is a fallen angel. Who is his father?" Kaneko asked. This got everyone's curiosity since Akano hasn't told them on who's Naruto's father. Akano looked at them with a bit surprised look on her face before she smiled at them. Era, I didn't say." Where the others shook their head negatively. "Oofufufu, how silly of me. Unfortunately, I don't remember who his father's name was, but I do know that he had only 2 sets of wings," Akano stated. Rias and the other nodded about it, still a little worried, but knew that it wasn't much of threat to face since Naruto's father was a low-class fallen angel. Before they could relax, Akano did say something else that got their nerves shaken. But, his godfather is Azazel. Akano finished explaining. That got them to worry a lot since they know who Azazel was. Where Akano just laughed to her hand as she brought it up to her mouth from the looks that everyone in the clubroom had. Kuo Academy, Ruth. It's been 3 days since Naruto started attending Kuo Academy as a senior student. He was currently lying on the roof, deciding to skip his last class, as he gathered his thoughts together on what has happened recently to him. First thing first, his thought about Akano. Not once, in the last 9 years, has Naruto forgotten about her, as he always wondered if she was alright, as well as remembering the promise he made to her, which he frowned about it. He could still remember the day that he first met her, closing his eyes as he recalled his memories. Flashback. It was early afternoon as a family of 3 and their single friend were heading towards a house that was located near a shrine. As they walked towards the home, a little boy, no older than 6 years old, followed his parents while curious about something else. Ka-chan, where are we going? The young boy asked. The boy's mother looked down at her little child with a smile on her face. The boy's mother was a young beautiful woman, early to mid-20s, with a slender yet feminine build. She has fair skin, violet eyes, and fiery red hair with strands that framed both sides of her face and a black clip that parts her hair to the left, keeping it out of her eyes. She wore a simple blue dress that made her look more attractive. Well, Naruto, we're going to see an old friend of ours. The young mother answered, where she gestured towards her husband and Azazel, who walked alongside them with his hands in his pockets. A friend? Naruto tilting his head to the side in confusion. That right. An old friend of his met a woman where he moved here a while ago. They actually have a daughter about your age, said Naruto's father, pointed at the other adult where he rubbed his chin thoughtfully before a grin made its way on his face. I wonder if this visited would turn in the beginning of what they call childhood romance. Don't you agree, Minato? Said the man. Minato chuckled innocently while his wife formed a tick mark on her head as she gave their friend a punch on his skull. Azazel, my baby is too young to be getting involved with any girl, she shouted in her motherly tone. Minato looked sympathetic at Azazel, where Azazel looked at Minato. You sure know how to pick them, huh? He remarked at him, where Minato said, yup, that's my Kushina for you. Smiling sheepishly, Naruto just looked at Azazel in confusion before looking towards his parents. Anyo, what's a childhood romance? Kushina playfully smiled at her little boy as she answered him, it's nothing, sweetie, don't concern yourself over it, before glaring back at the man who stood up with shaky legs while rubbing on the lump on his head. Azazel shook the painful feeling on his before running back towards the family. Come on already, let's hurry up and meet Barakiel. I haven't seen that idiot's face in quite a while, ever since he settled down a bit. I'm kind of curious to see on whose his wife is since she snagged him. Azazel said as he walked alongside the family, which Minato nodded his head in agreement since he was curious, since Barakiel's wife was also an old friend of Kushina's. After walking a bit more, they reached their destination, which was expected to see in a living corridor that was next to a shrine. Kushina knocked on the front door where everyone waited for the people living in it to respond. Waiting for a few seconds, the door opened to reveal a beautiful woman, about the same age as Kushina, who had long black hair and violet eyes. She wore a simple black shirt and jeans that showed off her figure. The woman smiled at knowing who the visitors are. Kushina-chan, how nice to see you again, she said with a bright smile as she stepped close to her and gave her old friend a hug. It's good to see you again, Shuri-chan, smiled Kushina as she returned the hug. Shuri then let them into the house where she looked into her home. Barakiel-kun, they're here, she called out. Naruto looked at the lady since he has never met her before. He did know now that she was good friend with his mom if their smiles on their faces where anything is to go by. His attention turned to the heavy footsteps that were coming closer to them. When Naruto looked at who it was, his eyes widened in surprise. He was a middle-aged gruff-looking man with black hair, matching beard and a muscular body. All in all, in Naruto's opinion, he was huge, easily the biggest guy he's ever met. The muscular man asked his wife, "Who is it, Shuri-chan?" before looking at who was in the front door. His face turned to a wide grin on his face. "Azazel, you old bastard, and you Minato, you pretty boy," Barakiel said happily as he grabbed both men into a bear hug. Naruto winced as he heard cracking and snapping sounds that came from both his father and Azazel's backs. "Nne to s say cyyyua ga in b barakiel?" said Minato as he struggled to breathe. "Ba bar a cough chiel. Let us cough go," Azazel said through the sheer pain and pained breaths as the muscular man let go where both men crumbled to the ground. "Oh, sorry about that." The larger man sheepishly apologized to them while scratching the back of his head. He then noticed the young blonde boy who was trembling a bit from seeing the larger man almost splitting his dad and uncle in two. "Who's the kid?" he asked as he pointed at Naruto. Azazel suddenly jumped back onto his feet as if nothing happened, with a grin on his face while Minato slowly struggled back on his feet. "Oh, that's right. This here is Minato and Kushina's boy, as well as my godson, Naruto. Go on, introduce yourself," Azazel said where Naruto looked at his father, who finally got back up and patted his son's shoulder to do so. Hello, my name is Namikaze Naruto," introducing himself with a light bow like his mother had taught him. Era, such a cute little boy. Oh, and even though he has Kuchi's face, he definitely looks like Minato," Shuri said as she pinches Naruto's cheeks, which caused him to whine about it. "Yup, just like his dad, he'll be a real lady killer," Azazel added as he shrugged towards Minato, who chuckled innocently about the comment. "What about you? I've heard that you have a child of your own," Kushina asked as they moved towards the living room. The adults sat down on the couches while Naruto's attention went towards a nearby fish tank that was there where he suddenly was entranced from it for some reason from the serene viewing. Shuri smiled brightly at the mention of her child before cupping her hands together. She then shouted out all around the house, "Akeno-chan, can you come down here for a second?" Pretty soon the adults heard the sounds of a small footprints coming closer to them until they saw a young girl, about Naruto's age, entering the living room. "Yes, mommy?" asked little Akeno, as she looked curiously at her mother. Akeno was a cute little girl wearing a simple white dress. Akeno looked just like her mother, long black hair, violet eyes. Her hair was tied in a ponytail that was held by a purple ribbon. She looked around as she was curiously wondered on who the three adults her parents were talking to. Shuri pointed the adults, "Akeno-chan, I want you to meet our guests. This is Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina and her husband Minato. The one next to them is both your father and Minato's friend, Azazel." Where the three waved towards the little girl where their names were called out. Acting on how her mother taught her, Akeno politely smiled before bowing at them. "Hello, my name is Himejima Akeno. It's nice to meet you," she greeted them. "What a polite young lady," Kushina commented before turning towards her son, who was enthralled with the fish tank. "Naruto, come over here and introduce yourself." Naruto didn't respond at first where his mother called out to him again. Naruto just looked mesmerized. Hercules. Song of Faith. Naruto was so mesmerized that he couldn't hear his mother's voice. Instead he heard a beautiful and gentle voice, whose song had surrounded him. Before he could do anything, he heard an elder man's voice. "From the earth comes a promised new life. From the winds, our souls are passed. From fire, darkness is turned into light. From the death of a pure divine, a hero is born to take his place." End Ost. His was suddenly shaken out of his thoughts when Kushina came to her son where she nudged him a bit. Naruto blinked a bit before coming back to reality. He looked at his mother where he asked on what's up. Kushina looked a little surprised on the fact that Naruto was completely out of reality. She put that in the back of her mind as he told him to greet himself to Akeno. Deciding to introduce himself like his mother instructed him to, he went towards the little girl without actually looking at her since his mind went to on what heard just now. He bowed politely in front of Akeno. "Hello, my name is Namikaze Naruto. It's nice to meet you." Naruto introduced himself before looking at her. When he saw her for the first time, he was completely caught off guard. He admitted to himself that she was a cute girl where he innocently looked at his mother. Ka-san? Is she an angel or something?" Akeno blushed a bit since Naruto just called her an angel, which was half true in a way. She just looked down as she took quick glances at Naruto since he called her an angel. The adults talked to each other about the comment that Naruto made to Akeno, where Barakel didn't seem too happy about it while his wife just smiled about it. As the adults talked, Naruto looked back at Akeno who just innocently looked at him. It was kind of awkward for him since Akano didn't stop staring at him. What is it? Why are you looking at me like that? Naruto finally asked. You called me an angel? She quietly said. Yeah, so? Naruto simply replied. No has ever called me that. Where Akano raised her hand and touched Naruto's cheek where he blushed at the smooth touch she gave him. Kushina and Shuri looked at the scene where squealed at the cute sight. Azazel smirked while Minato smiled at the innocent scene. They both turned towards their friend where they both were confused on why Barakel was frozen in place at seeing the children acting like that. In horror, Barakel asked with his body trembling, what is going on? Azazel decided to have some fun at seeing his friend's reaction. Well, from my point of view, it looks like your daughter has fallen for Minato's little boy's charms. I guess I was right, he's going to be a serious lady killer just like his father. You should be proud, Minato. Azazel said. Minato looked at Azazel, deadpanned. Azazel, you shouldn't tease Barakel like that. Besides, they're just children, it's alright if they're like this. But you can't deny that he'll be a lady killer just like you. Azazel remarked. Minato only sighs since Azazel was right, he was a lady killer since he attracted so many women, even though he didn't show any interest in them until he found Kushina. Barakel was far from happy. Even though Minato was right about children acting this affection since they were just innocent, he still grew into rage as he stood on his feet and pointed at Naruto. How dare you woo my daughter, you no good bastard. Wait till I get my hands on Yak, he said before being interrupted by a feeling of unimaginable pain in his groin. He looked down to see a foot had driven itself into his family jewels. He looked up to see the culprit and saw the foot belonged to an angry Kushina. Did you just call my baby a no-good bastard? Kushina snarled, as her hair started to wave around like fire into the air. Now, Kushina may be human, but that didn't stop Barakel from trembling in fear. No matter what kind of species you were, nothing is more terrifying than an angry woman. It's even double considering if they were a mother to boot. Minato was going to try and calm his wife down but was stopped when Azazel grabbed his shoulder and shook his head no, where he then offered Minato some popcorn from the bowl that appeared out of nowhere. Minato sighed as he decided to join Azazel and watch the show. Shuri's eyes gained a mischievous gleam as a sadistic smile grew on her face as she prepared to enjoy the show. Naruto and Akano just looked in confusion at what was happening with the adults. Naruto shrugged at it where he then turned to Akano with a smile on his face. Hey Akano-chan, do you want to play a game or something? He asked where she blinked a few times as she smiled brightly at him. Hi, let's go play outside, she answered as she grabbed his hand and led him to the backyard. End flashback. Naruto's eyes slowly opened up as he sat back up. He smiled as he remembered the day he met Akano. He knew that even though Azazel teased him, he was right about one thing. He still has feelings for Akano. His thoughts were interrupted as his attention caught the noise of some giggling sounds. He decided to look, where he saw 3 male students looking through a window. He sighed as he heard the perverted giggling and could hear the lecherous noises. Really? This guy's supposed to have a sacred gear? Naruto thought. Issei Hyodo, from what he heard about the guy, the only word that kept on turning up was pervert. He agreed with them since the kid continued to peeking in the girls' changing room or something. His mother had taught him to respect women, which he followed through. Deciding to teach them a lesson, he picked up the water bottle he had with him and directly poured its contents on the 3 perverts. Gah, what the hell? Issei shouted when the water soaked him. Nani, who did this? Said one of his friends. It wasn't that long since all 3 complained loud enough for the girls to hear them and exited the room where they spotted the perverts. Naruto moved away from the roof as he laid back down as he listened to the girls' fury and the painful screams of the 3 boys that were going on. His thoughts turned to Azazel since he asked him to watch over Issei because of the sacred gear he has. His thoughts stopped when he heard the door to the roof open. He looked towards the person to see that it was Akano. Nervously looking at her, he awkwardly greeted her, "Oh, hey Akano-chan. Era, to call me with such an affectionate manner. How bold of you ufu. Akano said with a demure giggle as she covered her mouth with her hand. Right, so, how have you been? He asked uncomfortably. Akano took a moment to think as she tapped her chin with her finger before answering him, I've been good. I'm sure you're aware that the Gremory clan has taken me in when I had nowhere to go after my mother died. She answered him with a pleasant smile, but Naruto could hear the bitter tone in her voice. Yeah, I heard about that. Naruto replied as he remembered the day when he heard the news. You know you could have come to me and my family, right? We would have taken you in with us without hesitation, he stated. And stay with the reason my mother died? She replied as his smile not falter in the least. Akeno-chan, you know it wasn't our fault. Naruto remarked. Really, because from what I remembered it was my no-good father's fault. He knew how my mother's family felt about him being with her, yet he still left us to defend ourselves. He was the one who made so many enemies that they outnumbered us and killed her while I barely escaped. She said as her smile never left her face, but her eyes grew cold. You making it sound like your father should have been there every minute of every day, but you know that's impossible. Barakel loved Aunt Shuri and he still loves her, as well as you. He said, but she seemed to ignore his words. And then there's you. You promised me that you would always be there when I needed you the most. And like any naive child I actually believed you. Tell me, Namikaze-san, where were you when I needed you the most? She asked as her smile left her face and looked at him with a frown. Akeno-chan, you have to believe me, he started but was stopped as Akeno interrupted him. I believed you once and look how that turned out. I ended up on the run as a young child and would have died if not for Bucko and her family. She said, shaking her head a little, where Naruto sighed in frustration as he ran his hand through his hair. Akeno shook her head a bit, but I didn't come here to take a walk down memory lane. I came here because Bucko would like to speak with you. Bucko? Naruto replied with a raised brow. Gremory Rias, the president of the Research Occult Club. Now if you would please follow me, I'll show you the way. Without waiting for an answer, she turned around and began walking away. As she was leaving, Naruto told her, if she wants to meet with me, then tell her to meet me at the Closes Mall Plaza located near the school by herself today. Where he just let her walk away as he turned back to the scenery. Akeno turned back to argue about it but saw that he was gone. She looked around where she couldn't find him, where she then decided to go and tell Rias about what he said. Later, Naruto, wearing his academy uniform, was sitting outside of a cafe restaurant that was located in the Plaza Mall. He sat on one of the tables where he had a cup of iced coffee. He placed his backpack right next to his feet as he read a file of an old Grigori report mission. The reason he was reading an old mission report of the Grigori was because he was looking for certain types of clues. Clues that would lead him to the truth about his past, a past that involved his father. As he continued his research, outside the plaza, Rias was at the entrance with her peerage. She only came here because of the situation with Naruto, since he is a fallen angel, which required her attention. To make things more intense was the fact that Rias was irritated by how Naruto ignored her invitation to meet with each other here instead of her clubroom. Part of her mind could understand, since she would too, but on the other hand it could be also a trap in a way. Before coming here, Rias had already planned out on how to proceed when talking to Naruto. She would go and confront Naruto with Akeno by her side, since Akeno has a history with Naruto which can turn things into her favor if she played it right. Kiba and Kaneko will stay hidden, yet keep an eye on the situation where they could go and defend their king while have a good way to take care of Naruto. Rias and Akeno went in where they began their search on where Naruto was at. Kiba and Kaneko soon follow, but at different locations to keep things low-key. As all four walk in, Naruto can already sense Akeno's life force where he can barely sense three more others. He guessed that Rias must have thought that this could be a trap. He sighed before he was hit by inspiration, where he smirked. Alright, since you didn't follow my suggestion, then I make you follow it. I wonder how they'll both react when they're outclassed, thought Naruto. Naruto quickly put his things inside his backpack, where he placed it on his seat. He went to the public restroom that was next to the cafe shop, where he went in and began his little task. With Kiba, Kiba walked casually through the crowd where many young women caught him in their sight. He ignored their gazes since he was on mission right now, where he needed to be as secretive as possible since he might have to fight a fallen angel in order to protect Rias. As he moved along, he had no idea that he was being set up. Kiba moved through the crowd where he bumped into a man wearing a jacket and a cap that kept his face hidden. The hidden man apologized to him, where he did the same. It didn't take long before a sudden shout behind Kiba alerted everyone. Kiba looked back to see a couple of young women whose blouses were undone by several thin strips of string. He looked to see several of them led to where he was, which he looked around himself. He found that all of them were connected to him by his pants on his right side, where he grabbed it by his hand. Before he can think about it, he heard all the young ladies shout out, "You pervert!" Looking dumbfounded, he looked at the strings in his hand and at the young women who looked at him with both disbelief and rage. It was then a sense of dread washed over Kiba as a few of the young ladies' boyfriends came up to him, where he looked a bit panicky. Kiba would have tried to settle this peacefully, but then felt a hand behind him where a security guard was standing next to him. "Alright kid, come with me. I was given a report that a young pretty boy with bleached blonde hair was acting perverted around here. You're going to have to explain yourself at the detention center," said the guard. Kiba looked surprised and nervous since he was now being accused of not only disturbing the peace, but also being called a pervert. With Kaneko carefully weaving around the plaza, the young petite girl moved along in order to catch up with her king and queen. As she moved along, she got closer to a bakery where they were handing out samples. Deciding to have a bite, she took a few samples before continuing with her search. As she ate the samples, she was starting to feel drowsy and unbalanced. She ignored it as she continued to move forward. It wasn't till a few minutes later that she started to feel heated up for some reason, to the point where she just had to sit down. She found a bench nearby where she sat down in order to get herself back on track. Unfortunately, the only thing it did for her was give her a comfortable place to take a nap. Plaza Cafe. Naruto came out of the restroom where he went back to his seat as he waited for Rias to arrive with Akano. He didn't have to wait for long since he can suddenly feel their gazes on him. Rias and Akano walked around a bit, wondering if Naruto just led them on some goose chase, where Akano spotted him sitting outside a cafe shop. She informed Naruto where she focused on his surroundings. All around him, there wasn't any barrier or spell of any kind. The people walking around, near him, were just regular humans. Observing the scenery, Rias can see that Naruto indeed came alone, where Akano also confirmed it. Both walked towards him while keeping their guard since they were still making contact with the fallen angel. Once they reach him, Naruto spoke up without turning his head around. "So, you finally came, Gremory-san, although, you didn't come here by yourself." Plainly stated. "Yes, well, I thought that it might be good company if I brought along someone else, since many students from school come here. If I came here and sit next to you alone, they might think that we're in a relationship or something?" Rias explained. You're probably right, although, that doesn't inspire much confidence in me. After all, you request my presence. And although I would normally respond to it, I don't intend to walk into a lion's den to do it. So I thought we could meet here in somewhere neutral in order to gain some trust. But it seems my trust has been unpaid," Naruto stated. Rias narrowed her eyes since he kind of insulted her, since he came here by himself in order to show trust, while she came here with her peerage instead of coming here by herself. She regained her composure. "True, but considering that Akano was once an acquaintance of yours, I thought it would be nice for her to talk to you." "Isn't that right, Akano?" Rias remarked. "Hi bucko," smiled Akano while playing along with Rias's play. "I see. Well, I guess it's a good thing that I took care of your other two players out of the game then," Naruto stated. Rias and Akano wondered on what he meant, where they then heard the public announcement speaker. "Well, friends of Yuto Kiba, please come to the detention center. Well, friends of Yuto Kiba, please come to the detention center." Rias and Akano were now worried on what happened to Kiba before they heard a slight bang on the table. They looked to see Naruto, lazily placing his head on his right hand that was lying on the table, while using his left hand to tap the table with a small vial that had a clear liquid in it. "I believe you should go and attend to that girl that is sleeping somewhere, and to take this with you since it's the only thing that would wake her up, since the thing she ate would keep her asleep for the next 2 days," Naruto simply explained. It was then that Rias figured out on what had happened. In no time at all, Naruto simply took care of her small peerage without raising his power or using some kind of spell or something. Rias turned back to Akano. "Akano, you go and help Kiba. I'll go and check on Kaneko." Where Akano agreed. Before they could leave, they heard Naruto speak up to them. "If you leave now, Gremory-san, then any talks you want will stop here." Rias looked a little peeved, but before she can retort, Naruto plainly said, "Why don't you let Akano handle it, since she can leave and handle the situation with the other two, since the only person I want to talk to is you, Gremory-san." Here, use this on that Kaneko girl since it would take us several minutes before the contents of the vial will wake her up. Plus, it isn't safe to leave a young girl like that by herself now. Making Rias look at him with surprise. Rias figured out his game plan. He asked for her alone, which she didn't since she brought Akeno and her few peerage members. Naruto figured them out where he took care of the two of them, leaving only Akeno to help handle the situations by herself. And with Akeno no longer by her side, Rias was now alone in order to deal with Naruto, just like he wanted. The red-haired beauty bitterly agreed where Akeno took the vial and left to get Kaneko before helping Kiba. Now by themselves, Naruto started the conversation with her. Now Gremory-san, what is you wanted to talk to me about? Asked Naruto as he viewed Rias' figure. Rias looked a bit displeased about her current situation but quickly regained her composure where she looked at Naruto with her smiling, poker face. Yes, you see, I'm kind of curious about on why a fallen angel, of all beings, would come here in a devil territory. She asked. Honestly, I had no idea I was attending school or better yet, getting sent to a school that was in devil territory. Naruto honestly explained. Really? Rias replied being a bit skeptic. Yeah, I had no intention of going to school at all. Naruto lazily said, taking a moment to sigh, that was until the old man threw me a uniform and told me to the academy that he directed me to. Naruto finished explaining. Old man? Rias curiously muttered out, and who is this old man, your father? She asked. Nope, Azazel since unlike him I actually respect my father. Naruto replied. Azazel huh? Rias muttered before smiling a bit, from what I heard, that sounds like something Azazel would do. Naruto then looked at Rias, so, is that all you wanted to ask me? Yes, Rias quickly replied, we just wanted to make sure you were not a threat. With that settled, I'll take my leave since I need to regroup my peerage. Rias said with a smile. Naruto nodded before he quickly told her, thank you. Rias was curious on what he just said which she questioned him about. Thank you for what? I didn't do anything for you. Rias remarked. It's for Akeno. Thank you for taking her in when I couldn't. Naruto replied where Rias can see it in his eyes that he still cares very deeply for her best friend. Rias smiled at him, your thanks are unnecessary but appreciated. I don't know the history between the two of you but I can see that you care for her. Where Naruto nodded in agreement with her. Even though I'm curious, I won't pry because it concerns only the two of you. So, she hasn't told you? Naruto asked earning a nod from the redhead. No, I wasn't even aware of your existence until yesterday. Rias explained. Naruto nodded since he doesn't know on what to say. Well, since our little meeting is over with. I'll be heading off, he announced. Very well. Have a pleasant evening, Rias said as she decided to head off to find her peerage. Before she can walk away, she heard Naruto, even though you don't know our past, I still know that you're curious. So I'll at least tell you this but don't tell her about it. I promised her that no matter what that I would protect and take care of her. But, getting Ria's full attention, sometimes in order to keep a promise, you must sometimes go against what you want and do what's right for the person you made it to. And it wasn't as I didn't want to find Akeno, it's because I couldn't. Naruto explained where he then started to walk away, leaving Rias dumbfounded in thought. To keep a promise, you must sometimes go against what you want to do what's right for the person you promised to. What could that mean? Also, he did want to find Akeno, no he wanted to, but couldn't it? Could something have happened to him that prevented him from going after her? What could it be? Rias questioned as her curiosity was piquing. It was around this time that Rias spotted her peerage coming towards her, where she decided to honor Naruto's request on not telling Akeno about what he just said to her. She saw that they were coming from the direction that Naruto was leaving. Naruto had his backpack over his shoulder where he saw Rias' peerage with Akeno walking behind them. Naruto moved around the two while Kiba and Kaneko looked a little upset at him since he took them out without even trying. He then walked closer to Akeno where she simply kept her demeanor. As they were about to pass each other, Naruto stopped where he spoke to her. Akeno-chan. Getting her to stop where her attention was now towards him while Kaneko and Kiba continued to walk further away from her, not knowing on what's happening. I know that you want to ignore me, forget about me, be angry at me. You can even hate me for all eternity but know this, keeping his face away from her. No matter what I still consider you my most precious person. If you ever need anything, even if it's of last resort, don't hesitate to call. Naruto finished telling her on what he still felt about her. Akeno turned around, eyes slightly widened, where she saw Naruto once again continue his leave. Kaneko and Kiba looked at their king to see she was seeing something behind them. They turned to see that Akeno was further away where they saw her looking at Naruto's destining back. They then saw Akeno turned back around, walking towards them with her usual smile plastered on her. Rias decided to regain both Kaneko and Kiba's attention since the relationship between Naruto and Akeno is private to them. As she explained on what happened, Akeno had her own thoughts, where unbeknownst to everyone else she lowered her head that shadowed her eyes. She bit her lower lip as she remembered Naruto's parting words to her. "No matter what, I still considered you my most precious person." She remembered hearing those same words before when she was young. "Don't worry, Akeno-chan, you're my most precious person. I'll stay by your side and protect you. That's a promise of a lifetime. I never go by on my word." Hearing those words from so many years ago, Akeno truly believed them. Of course, when the time came, those words came along with the questions. Where was he when her mother died? Where was he when she was all alone with nowhere to go? These were questions she once wanted an answer to, but now she didn't want to know. She made her decision years ago and would stick with it, which she believed it was the right thing to do. But the pain that her heart was now giving her made her bring a new question. Why did it hurt to see him walk away from her? Night. In an abandoned church lied Naruto on top of the roof. As he laid on the roof, looking out on the moonlit skies, his thoughts turned to the conversation he had with Rias. After his conversation with her, Naruto continued on with his school life where he met up with Akeno a few times but never got a real chance to talk to her. And when he was able to have some words with her, she would respond with a few curt words before going on her way. But even though it was short, he can tell from his encounters with her that she was deep in thought about something. He decided not to pry into them since it was something she needed to deal with herself. His mind then turned to his mission that Azazel gave him, the mission that involved Issei Hyodo. Following his orders, Naruto had kept an eye on the second-year student, which he quickly got bored from it since it always ends up the same thing. His affections towards S. Seeing the boy making comments about S every time with his friends or seeing him peep on and get beat up by girls eventually started to annoy him. Of course, he did learn something about the kid which made it somewhat easier for him to watch over. Issei Hyodo didn't like him. He can guess that it had something to do with him getting the majority of the academy girls' attention, especially after the last couple of days he did his training exercises and such. Flashback. It was early morning as the students in Kuo Academy began to enter the school for another day of lessons. But for those that came early, they began their day training on their athletic abilities such as running or other sporting events. Naruto is one of these people where he did both his kung fu and Shaolin training. He has been training in the martial arts for the past 10 years where many would see that he's a black belt. There was a reason on why he trained in the martial arts. His main focus is so he can continue to get stronger, both physically and spiritually, since he wanted to find out the truth about his father, which was still a great mystery. Currently, Naruto was practicing in an open area near the tennis court while wearing only a large sleeveless black tank shirt, baggy cameo pants and sneakers. Naruto has been in Kuo Academy before sunrise where it showed given the damp sweat that covered his shirt. He was so focused on his training that he didn't notice the group of his female admirers that were gazing on him with either admiration or lust. His admirers looked upon him as a very dedicated individual who was honing his skills. Those who were lusting over his training wondered on what his body felt like since he had a body that any woman wouldn't mind on feeling it with their hands. 300 The movie. As his female admirers looked on, there were those that eyed him with different reasons. One was Rias, since she can see that Naruto was indeed a strong individual given how well toned his body is. She even admitted to herself that she even found him attractive. Akeno, who stand next to him, also had the same thought that Rias has while she remembered that in the past, she would catch Naruto practicing his karate lessons. Finally was the male students who saw Naruto's training getting the female student body's attention. Among them was Issei, where he and his friends along with many other guys looked at Naruto with hatred or jealously since Naruto was getting all the action. End flashback. At the end of the day, he saw many guys trying to show him up where he either pranked them or he would ignore them completely while also getting letters for dates and such. He put his thoughts about his academy life in the back of his head when he felt a familiar presence approaching him. When the presence was close enough, he stood up, dusting off the imaginary dust off his pants. About time you got here. I was beginning to think you stood me up, Mai-chan. Greeting the person that was now behind him. TCH, quit complaining, I'm right on time. It's your own fault that you decided to get here earlier than needed. Said a feminine voice. Naruto turned to acknowledge his companion, friend. Mai is an attractive, medium-tall, young woman who was a year younger than him. She had honey-color eyes and long brown hair with long bangs that framed the sides of her face, tied up in a thick, long ponytail which flowed down to her lower back. She wore a tight pink, violet belly top and skinny capri jeans that showed off her buxom figure, 95, 57 90ths. We have an official assignment so you can at least pretend to care? Mai said while rolling her eyes. Don't start with me. I've been itching to go as much as you are, maybe more. I've only been in school for a week and it feels like it's been years. Naruto complained, which caused Mai to smirk. Oh, that's right, I nearly forgot. I must admit I almost died of laughter at the idea of you sitting around in a classroom doing school work. She said in a mocking tone as she watched Naruto's eyebrow twitch. Sighing a bit, Naruto looked at his companion. Can we not talk about it? So, what's our assignment? He asked. You mean you were assigned a mission by that pervert and you don't even know what it is? Mai deadpanned. Don't look at me like that. That old slouch just told me to be up here at this exact time and I would get a mission. Naruto explained with a shrug. Mai just shook her head and sighed, where she wondered the dynamics between godfather and godson were a bit too much for her to understand, though she admitted to herself it's amusing at times. She reached into her pocket and pulled out an envelope that she handed to Naruto. Here, Azazel-sama taught me to give this to you before the mission started. It must contain the details. She explained to him. Naruto opened the envelope, pulled out the letter, then began to read it. Hey brat, I know by now that you must be getting a bit anxious since starting in the academy. So I thought I would give you a simple mission to relieve some of that. Now don't worry about school. I have already handed a letter to the faculty saying that you'll be gone for a few days. If anyone asks, just tell them that you left town to take care of a sick relative. Now, the mission as I said is simple for you. We have just found out that someone in our ranks has betrayed us. Mizuki has just run off with classified information about the Grigori. He hopes to offer this to the angels in order to get back into God's good grace. I want you and Mai to locate and eliminate him. Good luck. So, we've got a traitor, huh? Mizuki? I met him a few times but I never thought he would have the balls to pull something off like this. Naruto commented as he pocketed the letter. I don't think anyone did, but that doesn't change the fact that he is now our target. Mai added. Guess we better get started. Naruto stated as two pairs of black wings sprouted from his back. Let's go. Mai nodded as two sets of wings sprouted from her own back, but they were a bit different from Naruto. Her wings were devil wings that, in certain areas, were covered in black feathers. Mai was an oddity in the Grigori group since like Naruto she was only half fallen angel, but unlike him she was half devil from her mother's side. Her father is one of the high-rank commanders in the Grigori group. In fact her father is second in command. Her father, Shemazai, is a fallen angel with 10 wings, who is also good friends with Naruto's father, Minato. So, how's Uncle Hazai? Naruto asked as they headed off to complete their mission. He's good though he still hates it when you call him that. Mai replied, which caused Naruto to grin mischievously. I know, that's why I call him that. He stated, causing Mai to roll her eyes but smiled a bit. So, why don't you tell me about your time in Kuo? She asked, that caused Naruto to groan in annoyance but relented. Grigori Base, Azazel's office. Currently sitting in his desk, Azazel is reading through some files. After learning about Mizuki's betrayal he was doing a background check on almost every fallen angel that he contacted in to make sure he didn't have any accomplices. As he typed away on his computer, he heard someone knock on the door. Come in, he called out, not even looking up from his screen. The door opened and closed after the person entered, where footsteps could be heard as they moved closer to Azazel's desk. He finally looked up as he heard the footsteps stop, where he smiled on who it was. Standing before him was a young woman with long black hair that fell to her hips and dark violet eyes. Her outfit was very interesting to say the least. Her outfit consisted of black, strap-like objects, resembling leather, around and under her a thong-like piece held around her hips by 3 thin straps, gloves that ran right up her arms with small lengths of chains hanging from them, shoulder guard-like objects on her shoulders with 3 large spikes sprouting from her right shoulder, and black thigh high heels boots. "You wanted to see me, Azazel-sama?" she asked. "Yes, I did, Rainier. I have a mission for you." Azazel started, causing the now identified Rainier to perk up, which didn't surprise him. Azazel knows that Rainier was one of the most dedicated members of Grigori. She was dedicated on proving herself to everyone and advanced through the rankings of the fallen angles. "What is it, Azazel-sama?" asked politely. "I'm sure you are aware that my godson's sudden absence," he said, causing Rainier to raise a brow. "I guess a better way to describe it is that he's on an undercover mission. I had him attend high school as an ordinary senior student so he could observe a human student named Issei Hyodo. I have reason to believe that this boy is in possession of a sacred gear, a powerful one at that. But we haven't been able to confirm it yet," he explained. "I see. Is this human's sacred gear a threat to us? I can't really think of any other reason that you would send your godson to school unless he was one." Rainier questioned. "Not necessary, but if left unchecked then it could become a threat to all 3 factions, not just the fallen angels. As for sending my godson in a way? Well, I thought it would be pretty amusing to see him struggle though school, even though I doubt it," he admitted with a bit of a smirk, while thinking about Naruto's inheriting his father's intelligence. Rainier had to bite her lower lip in order to hold the chuckle that wanted to escape. She wanted to remain professional in front of her leader, but the idea of Naruto being stuck in a school was amusing. "I see, but I don't see where I come into this." Rainier wondered. "I'm sure you've heard about Mizuki's defection, right?" he asked, earning a nod from his guests. "I have sent my godson to track and eliminate him. While he's away, I want you to take his place and observe Issei Hyodo." "I see." Rainier mumbled a bit. While she didn't hate school as much as Naruto, she couldn't deny that this was boring. Plus, she was basically being told that she would be babysitting some human boy she'd never met before. Seeing her reluctance, Azazel decided to pull out his trump card. "If you would do this, not only would it help me but it would also help out Naruto as well." With a smirk, since he knew that many young female fallen angels were trying to get close to Naruto since he was one of the most attractive male member as well as one of the most promising in the Grigori. Mentioning Naruto's name did the trick because the frown on Rainier's face immediately lifted where she blinked a bit before sighing. Azazel knew he won since if Rainier wasn't trying to raise her ranks then she was trying to please and impress Naruto. Fine, I'll do it. Is that all, Azazel-sama?" she asked, where the leader of the Grigori thought about it before shaking his head. "No, that's all," he said, causing her to nod. "Very well, I'll be on my way," she said, bowing before leaving Azazel's office. Once she closed the room behind her, Azazel looked back at the computer screen in front of him. "Alright, now with that taken care of, time to get back to work. On the off chance Mizuki is able to hand off the information, we'll need to step things up a bit," Azazel thought as he reached into his drawer. He pulled out 2 plain-looking folders and placed them on his desk. One of the folders had "Evil Pieces" written across it while the other had "Brave Saint" written across it. Cracking his knuckles, he opened the folders and continued his research. 2 nights later. It was night as Naruto and Maid tracked Mizuki at an abandoned warehouse before sighing in annoyance. "Really? He's here? Why does he have to be so cliché? I mean, really, what is it about abandoned warehouse that is so appealing that make people always feel the need to hide out in? Should you really be talking? We usually use abandoned churches as bases," Mai pointed out. "Churches aren't warehouse," Naruto shot back. "You have an answer for everything, don't you?" Mai asked sarcastically. "I try." Naruto shrugged before looking back at the warehouse. "Let's just get this over with." "Why? Do you have a test to study for?" she taunted. "Not really, it's more like a boring subject that I already studied before," Naruto replied. "That's got be boring," Mai remarked. "You have no idea," Naruto muttered, where he stalked towards the building as Mai closely followed. They paused at the door where Naruto debated on which way to approach. He shrugged as he decided to go for the direct approach. He kicked the door down, which it crashed onto the ground. The sounds of collision echoed through the building. "So much for subtle," Mai muttered as she followed Naruto inside. "Mizuki, where are you? Come out wherever you are, you bastard," Naruto shouted out as he cupped his hands around his mouth. "Do you really think someone on the run would really be that stupid that they would reveal their hiding spot?" Mai asked incredulously. So Azazel decided to send two brat after me. Huh? A voice shouted from the room that caused Mai to gape. Like I said, he's really cliché. The few times I met him, he never passes off a moment to gloat, and this is no different. He would gloat like a villain in a situation like this. Naruto casually explained before the two jumped apart. Embedded in their previous location were a few shurikens made out of green light. So, you were able to dodge that, huh? Then, why don't you try this? Mizuki shouted out as another wave of green light shuriken soared through the air from another direction. Naruto rolled his eyes as he shifted his body around to dodge Mizuki's attack. Is that all you can do? Attack from the distance while you hide in the dark? No wonder you defected. A coward like you has no place among us. Taunted Naruto. Don't be so rude, Naruto. He can't help it if he's such a scaredy cat. Mai added. Shut up. Mizuki roared throughout the room as he jumped out of his hiding spot to reveal a middle-aged man with shoulder-length silver hair. He was wearing a sleeveless green shirt and light blue jeans. See, what did I tell you, Mai-chan? He's such cliché character. Taunt the guy a bit, calling him a coward, and what does he do? He comes out into the open to try and proves us wrong. Naruto said with a smirk. Okay, I admit. I apologize to you. Mai replied. Stop mocking me, you brat. We'll see who has the last laugh when I kill the two of you. Mizuki roared as he raised both his arms up with his hands opened. Suddenly, two large shuriken made of green light appeared before tossing them at the two fallen angels. Is this all he can do? Mai asked, looking bored as she sidestepped out of the way while Naruto caught the other shuriken with his bare hand, shocking Mizuki. Taking the opportunity, Mai created a spear of white light where, without hesitation, she threw it at Mizuki where he screamed in pain as it pierced his leg and kept going until it stabbed the ground, pinning him in place. Why on earth did Azazel-sama think it would take the both of us to take him down? Mai wondered out loud. I don't know and I don't care. Let's just end this, Naruto said as he raised his hand, that had the caught green shuriken where he sent it back at Mizuki, sticking it on his head where he dropped dead. That was easy, Mai commented as she created another ball of light before throwing it at Mizuki's remains, incinerating it to ashes. Yosh, mission completed, Naruto said after checking to make sure nothing of Mizuki remained. Then I guess the only thing left is to return to base and report to Azazel-sama. Mai said, earning a groan of annoyance from Naruto. Do we have to now? Let's just find a place to stay for the night and report in the morning? It's late, Naruto whined. Absolutely not. We're supposed to report back as soon as possible after completing the mission. Frown Mai. Oh come on. The old man won't care about it. If it would make you feel better, we can tell him that it took a bit longer than expected. Naruto suggested. He really wanted to sleep right now and didn't feel like traveling or giving some report at this time of night. He would use his own special technique to go home, but he would only use it for emergencies only or in high-rank battle. Are you trying to tell me that you want us to lie on our mission report just so you can get some sleep? Mai asked, glaring at him, but he didn't seem to notice. Yes, Naruto instantly answered. Is it that unreasonable? Yes, Mai shouted, smacking him in the back of his head. Honestly, how can you be so irresponsible? She asked while massaging her temples. It was silent for a few seconds before Naruto spoke up. So are we going to find a place to sleep in for the night? Mai said no, which Naruto continued to pester his friend before she finally agreed because of his childish behavior. After their little debating, Naruto and Mai looked for a place to crash for the night. During the time, he held a grin on his face since he loved to annoy his friend so much. Her reactions were always entertaining, and the best part? He gets another day off from school. A day earlier, Issei Hyodo couldn't believe on what happened. Recently, he was asked out on a date by a really cute girl he has never seen before. Given who he was, he jumped at the opportunity to get a girlfriend and said yes to date with her. Yuma Amano, that was the girl who asked him out, where it seemed like they were getting along great. They spent the day talking, laughing, and Issei was confident that his first date was turning into a big success. They decided to end the date at the park as they watched the sunset. That's when things turned downhill, where it all started when she asked him a question. Would you die for me? And that's where things changed. The sweet girl who was standing before him suddenly transformed. Her outfit changed from a black dress and light purple top into a revealing dominatrix-type outfit. But the most distinctive features were the black wings that sprouted from her back, where the next thing he knew he was stabbed in the stomach with a strange spear of light. He had no idea that this was how his day would end, but here he was now, lying in a pool of his own blood. "Thanks for the date," Yuma said before flying off into the sky. "Is this really how I'm going to die?" Issei thought as he coughed up more of his blood. He weakly raised his hand. OTC, it was drenched in blood. All this blood, it's so red, just like Ria-senpai's hair. He thought while thinking about Kuo Academy's #1 beauty, Ria-senpai. "If I'm going to die, I wish it was nestled between your s." He closed his eyes as his life slowly drained out of him, so he didn't see a glowing circle appear on the ground near him. The circle's glow increased until Ria's Gremory appeared out of it. She looked around and frowned when she saw that Issei was almost at death's door. It looked like he still had a bit of life in him but wouldn't last long before he succumbed to his injuries. "So, the fallen angel was able to get to you," Ria said sadly, "but I can't help but wonder if Naruto is somehow involved in this?" If she were honest with herself, she would say no. From what she heard from Akano, this was not something he would do, and the brief conversation she had with him only furthered that thought. But still, she couldn't help but be a bit suspicious. Naruto, a fallen angel, just shows up around the same time she notices Issei. Then he doesn't show up to school for a few days, where another fallen angel comes and does this. She quickly shook those thoughts away, where she brought her attention back to Issei's condition. She decided to think about Naruto later, since right now, she had someone to recruit into her peerage. After her attack, Rainier flew through the night sky until she reached her destination. Unlike Naruto, she doesn't have an apartment somewhere in the city, so she was staying at an abandoned church. The moment she entered, she was greeted by the sight of 3 other fallen angels. "How'd it go?" one of the girls asked. She was a young, tall, buxom woman with long navy blue hair that obscured her right eye and had brown eyes. Her outfit consisted of a violet, trenchcoat-like top with a wide collar, matching miniskirt, and black-heeled shoes. The trenchcoat top was opened at her chest, giving view to her cleavage. She also wore a gold necklace around her neck. "I took care of it," Calawarner, she answered. "So you killed him?" another girl asked. She had blonde hairstyle in twin short-side ponytails with a large black bow on top and blue eyes. She wore black Lolita dress with white frills, a large black bow on the front, and a green jewel embedded on the collar, white thigh-high socks, and black shoes. "Yes," Rainier simply answered. "Was that the right choice?" "You were told to watch him," Calawarner reminded. "True, but we couldn't forget about his sacred gear." The boy was very simple-minded. Any of the other factions could have easily tempted him by just mentioning S to him, and he was too easily manipulated, so he would have done more harm than good if he joined our group. It was safer to get rid of him now before the other factions could get a hold of him. Rainier explained. "I suppose so, but if Azazel-sama is displeased with this, then I'm blaming you," Calawarner said. "Relax, Calawarner," said the only male of the group. He was a middle-aged looking gentleman with short black hair and dark blue eyes. He wore a pale violet trench coat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black pants, black shoes, and a black fedora. "I'm with Calawarner on this. I don't want to get in trouble either," said the blonde girl. "You two middled," said the man, rolling his eyes before smiling at Rainier. "Don't worry, Rainier, I'll stand by your side no matter what." Rainier hummed, not really paying attention to him, causing him to hang his head in defeat. Donasek sucking up to Rainier. "Why am I not surprised?" Calawarner said sarcastically. "It's because he's in love with Rainier, but she doesn't pay any attention to him," Middled said, hopping up and down, earning a glare from Donasek. "If he was more like Naruto-sama, then maybe she would pay attention to him." At the mention of the blonde fallen angel, Donasek scowled hatefully. "Speaking about Naruto, what are we going to do about him?" Calawarner asked as she looked at Rainier. "What do you mean, what are we going to do about him? Why do we have to get him involved in this?" Donasek asked bitterly. "Because when he returns and finds out that the kid he was supposed to be watching over is dead, he'll want answers, don't you think?" explained the blue-haired woman. "You're right. I have no idea when he's supposed to return, so I guess I'll have to wait here so I can tell him on what happened." Rainier sighed while also thinking on how she can try and get closer to him. "TCH, why do we have to tell that bastard anything?" Donasek sneered. "Because he's the boss's godson," Middled answered. He's a higher rank than us. Calawarner added. And this was originally his mission. Rainier finished explaining where Donasek tried to think of something to say but couldn't, so he turned away with a scowl. Rainier sighed as she saw Donasek walk away. Whatever. I guess all we can do is now wait, she said. A day later, Kuo Academy. Naruto was resting on a bench as he was deep in thought. The reason was because something had happened while he was gone, something that he was able to figure out. Flashback. What do you mean you don't remember her? Naruto heard someone shouting as he walked up a set of stairs at Kuo Academy. Looking up, he saw that it was Issei Hyodo who was yelling at his two perverted friends. How can we remember someone we've never seen before? One of the perverted trio asked with a shrug. If you're going to lie, then you may as well make it more believable. There is no way that you could have gotten a girlfriend. The one with glasses added. What do you mean you've never seen her before? I introduced you to her yesterday. Here I have her number and email address, he said as he opened his cell but paused. Where is it? He silently muttered out. It was at the moment that Rias walked by and her eyes landed on Issei for a few seconds before narrowing them when they landed on Naruto. To him, it looked like she was trying to figure out something about him, but what? She already knew he was a fallen angel, so what was she trying to find? Without as much as a word she walked by them as Naruto stood there trying to think if he imagined things. End flashback. Was I just imagining things? Naruto asking himself. And then there's Issei. The look on his face says he was telling the truth about this girlfriend, but no one seems to know this Yuma person. But the really problem would be on why I sense Issei as a devil, instead as a human being. What has been happening when I was away? Thinking out loud. Era. You know what people say about talking to yourself. It is a sign of insanity. Said a familiar voice that Naruto wasn't surprised to hear. Or sign of genius, since there's a thin line between insanity and genius. Naruto replied back to Akeno as he turned to look at her. So what can I help you with, Akeno-san? Asked Naruto with a bit of hesitation. Bucko was just curious about something, she asked as Naruto raised his brow. Then why didn't she come here to ask me herself? Confusingly asked Naruto before backtracking. Not that I don't enjoy your company or anything. While thinking, despite how awkward and tense it could be at times. Akeno looked at him straight into his eyes as she'd asked him. She wanted to know if you had anything to do with the fallen angel that killed Issei Hyodo a few days ago. Nani? Naruto simply replied dumbfounded. So you don't know? Akeno asked, tilting her head. No, I just got back to town yesterday evening. Wait, you said that Issei died but he was here in school. Wait, did Rias resurrect him into her peerage? That would explain on why he felt like a devil than a human when I saw him. He asked Akeno as he wondered the possibility. Akeno was caught by surprise by Naruto's analytic skill on figuring out on what Rias done to Issei. She decided to tell him on what happened with Issei. You're right. Bucko did resurrect him after his date with a girl that was a fallen angel. Her name was Yuma Amano, where at the end of her date, she stabbed him through his stomach with a light spear and left. It was around that time that Issei unknowingly summoned Bucko, where you figured out the rest. She explained. Naruto thought out to himself, Yuma Amano, huh? That probably a fake name since I don't anyone by that name. Era, it seems that you really weren't involved with Issei's death. Akeno commented. Since Issei was now part of Rias' peerage, there wasn't any point for him to hold back the information he knows about him, where he decided to tell Akeno. Alright, since this is all out in the open, I'll be honest with you. Azazel had a feeling that Issei has a very powerful sacred gear and wanted me to keep an eye on him. He believed that he could have been a danger to him and everyone around him, including the three factions, if he wasn't left alone. Naruto explained, causing Akeno to nod. I see. Well, that was what Bucko wanted to know, so I will see you tomorrow at school, Namikaze-san. Akeno said as a magic circle appeared beneath her feet, where she disappeared before Naruto could say a word to her. Yeah, see y'all later, muttered to himself. Even if she was forced because of Rias' order, we're at least talking to each other. He closed his eyes, where he decided to investigate about what he just learned. He decided to go and find the fallen angel that caused this little stir-up. Chances are, I'll find the person over the nearest abandoned church. If not, fine, then I'll have to look all over the darkest parts of town. Naruto said to him as he stood up and stretched out his wings before taking flight. Rias was sitting in her chair as she looked over some information that were laid down on her desk. With her, Kaneko was sitting on one of the two sofas in front of her, eating some cake. As Rias continued to investigate on why there are more fallen angels in the city, she suddenly saw a magical circle appear in front of her before Akeno stepped out of it. Akeno, so did you talk to Naruto-san? Was he involved with Issei's attack? Rias asked. Well, bucko, it appears that Naruto-san wasn't involved with it since he had very strict orders on not attacking Issei, just to observe him. Akeno told her Kane. Really? Just to observe? Questioned Rias. Hi, it appeared that Azazel was worried that Issei has a very powerful sacred gear. One that would have been dangerous to the three factions if it were left alone. Akeno replied. I see, since Naruto was there to just observe, he probably would have left him alone and only interfered if any other of the three factions or some other group tried to persuade him with something. Rias commented to herself. So with that situation with Naruto-san settled, what's your next move, bucko? Akeno asked. Well, we are going to have to introduce our newest member to our group tomorrow, Akeno. Rias replied with a smile where the raven-haired woman nodded. The business with Naruto settled with, Akeno had mixed feelings that she tried her best to keep hidden from her Kane. One was that she hoped that Naruto would leave Kuo since she doesn't want to see him ever again. While another hoped that Naruto would stay close by even if she despised him. She just couldn't make up her mind on why she still cared for him even though he wasn't there when her mother was killed or when she was left alone. Night, next day. Naruto is flying freely in the moonlit sky as he headed towards the closest abandoned church. He would have investigated the problem yesterday evening, but he was forced to hold it off since he had to do some studying for a test earlier in the day. With him being freed from studying, he went out when the sun completely set where he flew towards his destination. Upon finding the abandoned church, he let out his senses where he sensed the presence of 3 low-class fallen angels. He gently landed in the front of the church building where he then pushed the doors open to get inside. Upon entering, he found the church was the same as other abandoned churches, torn up, left uncared for and such. He walked through the corridor as the moonlight that came through the open windows gave the place a somewhat ominous atmosphere. Personally, he didn't care since he found the setting useless, especially since he's been scared by something even worse than this abandoned church, or any type of fear factor that came at him, his mother's rage and punishments. Walking up towards the altar, he stood there for a bit before he shouted out to the once sacred building, all right. Enough hide and seek, come out now, I know that you're all here. It didn't take long where 3 figures suddenly fell from the ceiling and landed around him. Welcome Naruto-sama, Rainier said as she bowed on one knee front of him, the same with Middled. Donasek stood up and just glared at the boy in front of him since he didn't like seeing Naruto's face. Naruto turned around to see his fellow member where he recognized them. Rise up. Unlike Azazel or any of the other higher-ups, you don't have to bow to me. Naruto simply stated. Middle just bounced around a bit before she sat on one of the benches while Rainier stood up and acted professionally but could see a small smile and a hint of pink on her cheeks that indicate she liked seeing Naruto in front of her, especially on what he's wearing. Naruto was dressed in a black shirt under a black jacket with golden lining around the hems and gray pants with steel-tip shoes. Donasek saw Rainier's reaction towards Naruto where he snarled silently since he has been trying to get Rainier affection for the past 2 years. For future reference, Naruto is 18, Rainier 19, and Donasek is late 20s to early 30s look but is actually a few centuries old. Big age gap, right? Once seeing them, Naruto decided to get the ball rolling here since he needed answers. Alright now, onto business. Alright then, by seeing you 3 here I can only guess that you would be the one to answer my question Rainier given that you're the only one to be able to do what I've heard from. Where Rainier looked focus on answering whatever question Naruto had for her. She paid close attention as he once again talked to her. Did you kill a young teenager named Issei Hyodo that went to Kuo Academy a couple of days ago? Rainier gathered her thoughts as she answered yes as she explained on how she did it. Once it was over, Naruto sighed where he was about to explain to her on what the result of her actions has done. Just as he was about to explain, all their attention was soon drawn towards the entryway where they all saw Calawarner quickly coming in. She immediately walked around where she found some damaged red sheets and used them as robes before running up to her comrades. Rainier, the boy that you killed is back but now he's a devil. she stated. This got Rainier and the others a bit surprised where Naruto didn't seem to be surprised. It took a moment before Calawarner noticed Naruto was in the group where she slightly bowed towards him. Naruto-sama. Excuse my entrance since my attire was damaged from the bit of fight I was just in. Calawarner. What fight? Who managed to strip you like that? Naruto ordered. It was from that boy that Rainier killed a few days ago. But now he is back as a devil where he can now summon his sacred gear. Calawarner answered. This got everyone by surprise where they all heard Naruto sigh while he thought, this is going to be a bit of a headache. Once he took a few breaths he looked at all of them before putting his attention on Rainier. Rainier, can you tell me what your orders were? With a commanding tone, Rainier was a bit hesitate before she recalled on what Azazel wanted her to do. Azazel-sama orders were that I were to keep an eye on Issei Hyodo until your return from your other mission. And did you follow those orders to the letter or did you do something else? Questioned Naruto. Well, sort of, since Azazel-sama said that his sacred gear might be a danger to us. And from the way I saw from the kid, he could have been easily manipulated by any other group. Rainier sheepishly answered. Naruto sighed again before explaining his concerns. Well, you should have just followed those orders since you didn't know that the devil that is in charge of this territory was interested in him. In fact, you gave them the excuse they needed in order to add him into their group. The others looked a bit surprised since Rainier's decision just complicated things for them. Before anything else could be said, Donasek spoke up. Now, don't be so hard. Even though the situation has changed a bit, it doesn't mean we can't correct it now. He sneered mischievously as he summoned his light blade. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Donasek. No, don't you go near him or any of their comrades. Naruto ordering them. Donasek was going to argue about it, however Naruto let out some killing intent at him where it shut him up. Once the discussion about Issei was dealt with, Naruto looked at all of them. Alright, since the observation mission on Issei Hyodo is basically over with. I'll let you guys do on what you want to do as long as it doesn't involve in any type of fighting or hostile activities until your next mission is ready for you. Ordered Naruto. All of them looked pleased since they were given some downtime where they can have some fun, as long as it didn't involve in any type of fighting or violence, which Donasek didn't like to hear. Before separating, I want Rainier, Calawarner, and Middle to come along with me. Donasek, you can go. Naruto ordered. Naruto-sama, why do you want us? Asked Calawarner. For one, you can inform me on what Issei's sacred gear is. Calawarner. Rainier here is going to give me a detailed report on the entire time she spent with Issei since I need to write up a psychological evaluation for future reference. And since it may take up most of the night, I figure I might as well be a gentleman and let you girls crash at my place. Naruto explained his reasoning. The girls were happy to hear that they'll spend the night in Naruto's place where they can sleep in something decent. The only one that didn't like this setup was Donasek, which he complained on why he wasn't going to go along with them. Naruto simply answered, you're a guy, you can handle sleeping in a place like this. I've done it before as well. So it's no big deal. Now come on, we got work to do. Enjoy the night, Donasek, said Naruto as he bid farewell to the older male while the girls followed Naruto out of the church where they headed towards his apartment. Once they were gone, Donasek snarled in frustration at how he was treated as well as how he was practically been treated like a dog, where it was even worse for him since Rainier was watching on what happened. Soon, after his snarling session, he began to chuckle a bit. I may have looked like a simple-minded child in front of you, Rainier, but just wait. In a few days' time, I'll be able to give you something that will definitely make you admire me. Donasek muttered to himself. Morning. Sleeping in a queen-size bed was Rainier, Calawarner, and Middled. All three girls were sleeping in a guest bedroom in Naruto's penthouse. The reason was for the information that Naruto needed took a lot of time from them, where he gave the girls a nice place to rest. As the sunlight starting seep through the window, Rainier started to wake up where she removed her covers to reveal her nude body. She usually wears his battle uniform, but since she was sleeping in a comfortable bed, she removed them where she slept heavenly. Plus, she was hoping to use her appeal to get closer to Naruto, since if Naruto came to wake them up where he removed the covers, he'll see her naked body, which she hoped would give her a step forward in gaining a relationship with him. With her stirring, Calawarner also woke up where she started to register on where she was. She sighed in relief since she remembered that she was sleeping in Naruto's home. As they started to raise themselves, they heard Middle mutter something about chocolate or something sweet. Dressing back into their clothes, where Rainier wore her bondage, leather outfit, while Calawarner wore her same old clothes that she replaced from her last one being destroyed. Walking out of the bedroom, they went to look for their superior since they were staying in his home. Getting to the living room, they wondered on where he was, where Rainier spoke up. "Naruto-sama? Naruto-sama?" called out. "What is it, Rainier?" Naruto called back as he opened the door from the bathroom he was in. Rainier and Calawarner looked back to see Naruto coming out, except his body was drenched in water while only wearing a towel that covered everything below his waist while his chest was exposed. Both women blushed red, but Rainier's blush was deeper since she has never seen Naruto in the buff before. Rainier took in every detail of Naruto's body since his body was both lean yet muscular. Rainier glanced up and down as the water that covered him helped highlight his body even further. As both women looked at their superior, Naruto looked confused as he tilted his head a bit. Are you two alright?" asking his fellow fallen angels. Returning to reality, Calawarner looked at Naruto and acted professionally in front of him. "Hi Naruto-sama. We were just wondering if you need any other assistance or anything like that." Naruto shook his head at her question. "No, you two gave me everything I asked for. You two, along with Middle and Donasek, can enjoy your time off until I or any of the higher-ups contact you for another assignment." Responded to her. With that, Naruto went to his room where he put on his academy uniform. As he prepared to go to Kuo Academy, he turned his thoughts onto what he learned last night. From what Calawarner explained to him, Issei's sacred gear is a red, armored bracer with yellow accents and a green jewel on the top the palm area while his fingers were covered. After getting both reports from Rainier and Calawarner, he stayed up all night to write down a psychological report so to keep on record since Azazel was curious about sacred gears and their users. With the information about the sacred gear, he spent the rest of the night to look for it from the Grigori database where he has yet to find it. He decided to put that off for now since he has to focus on another day of school. Once he was ready, he left his room where he went to Kuo Academy for another day of classes. As he was leaving, he said his goodbye to the girls and told them on not leaving a mess in his home where they agreed. Leaving his home, Rainier and Calawarner left to wake Middle since Donasek had told them earlier that he has something planned where he was sure it was something that they would like. Out of curiosity, they decided to go back to the abandoned church since they wanted to know on what he was planning. Late afternoon, Naruto was returning to his penthouse after another boring day of school. Like the beginning, nothing uneventful has happened. His talks with Akano began and ended with only a few words. But even though it was few, Naruto can see that she was affected by something. He thought that it might be him or something else. He would have probed more but decided to respect Akano enough to leave her thoughts alone. Reaching his penthouse, he walked in where he placed his school bag next to the door. Making his way towards his living room, he finally sensed the presence of a familiar presence. He walked in to see that it was Mai, sitting on his couch, watching TV and eating pizza. Mai turned around when she sensed that Naruto was behind her where she gave a saluted gesture. "Hey Naruto, want some pizza?" Naruto looked at Mai deadpanned at her. No thanks." Out of curiosity, "Why are you in my home?" asking his friend. "Oh, I thought it would be nice to visit your place since I'll be living here for the time being." Mai answered where Naruto did a spit take. Come again?" Naruto asking again. "You heard me. I'll be living here thanks to my father's orders." Mai once again answered. "Okay. But why are you living here?" wondered Naruto. Mai's calm tone changed into a snarled one as she looked at him dead in the eye. "It's because of you that my dad decided that I should spend my time at school like a regular teenager, just like you. I could be out doing some important mission but no, both mom and dad said that it would be a good idea to act like a girl than a warrior." Puffed Mai. "Okay, but that doesn't explain on why you are staying here?" questioned Naruto. It was Azazel's suggestion. He told him that he sent you to Kuo Academy to live like a normal teenager and have a social life. He told Dad that sending me to Kuo not only give me a social life and since you live near it, that I should live with you since I'll have a place to stay but also I have someone that can protect me if I ever need it. Like hell I need protection. Puffed out Mai. Naruto sighed and grumbled about his godfather actions has struck again. He decided to let it go for now since he has more important things to do. As he was about to leave to go into his work office, he looked at Mai once again. "I'll talk to you again later, but right now, I got work to do. So enjoy the night. Oh, you mind saving me some pizza for later since I might want a snack?" Naruto said, where Mai replied at waving her hand in the air while answering, yeah. Focusing on the other things, he went to his desk where he focused on figuring out Issei's sacred gear since he wanted to be accurate in his report. From what he was able to gather, all signs point that his sacred gear was just a regular one, but knew that he shouldn't judge a book from its cover. It's because of that reason that he felt that Issei's sacred gear was actually something else, something that he can sense that agitated him, since it could be the result from his partner's agitation. As he continued his work, he had no idea that something else was brewing before him. Midnight. As the world slept, 3 figures were flying in the night sky as they landed on the balcony of Naruto's penthouse. Rainier, Calawarner, and Middle landed gently as they made their way inside their superior's home. They came back after helping one of Donazeke's servants from a devil's peerage. Walking into the home, they continued with the conversation that they were having on what has happened tonight. "I have no idea on what Donazeke's servant was doing, trying to take on group of devils by himself," questioned Calawarner. "I can sense that exorcist is a complete nut job. Even though he is a great fighter, he's just the weirdest person I've ever met." Middle stated, "Yeah, but I have to admit that Donazeke did acquire a very unique sacred gear from that nun he had gotten himself." Rainier commented, "Personally, I'm kind of curious on what he plans on doing with the nun. He says he got plans on what to do with her but asked us to not tell Naruto-sama." Middle wondered, "I don't care, however, if it gets me in trouble with either Azazel or Naruto, I'm putting the blame on him." Rainier explained. Calawarner and Middle agreed as they quietly moved along the home. They can see an empty pizza box in the living room while 2 drinking cups in the sink. They figured that Naruto got pizza and drank 2 different drinks during dinner and before sleeping. They decided to go to bed at the guest bedroom since it's been a long night. Morning. Waking up from the sun, Rainier got herself dressed in her regular clothing where she made her way to get some breakfast. She looked around to see that Naruto wasn't up yet and was probably still sleeping. She decided to politely wake him up since she wanted to be nice to him, but also to have some breakfast. Scouring towards his room, Rainier gently opened the door and quietly went into his room. When she was close enough, she couldn't help but blush at seeing his gentle sleeping face along with some of his chest exposed from the sheets. Reaching towards him, she gently nudged his chest, while making a mental note on how firm it is, as she woke him up. "Naruto-sama, it's time to wake up," she removed the sheets, where she then noticed something completely shocking. Rainier looked under his sheets to see that Naruto wasn't sleeping alone. Sleeping next to him was a young girl, same age as him, with long brown hair with bangs that framed the sides of her face. The thing that shocked Rainier the most was the fact that she was snuggling onto him, where she had her arm on his abs that was kept hidden from the bed sheets. Seeing this, she did the only thing that came into her mind. "What the hell?" she screamed. This got immediate response as Naruto awoke in surprise at Rainier's yell as he moved and fell out of bed. Mai also did the same as she spun around and fell off the other side of the bed. Grunting around, he got himself up where the blonde looked directly at Rainier. "What the hell, Rainier? What's with the shout?" asking his female comrade. Rainier shakily pointed at the other side of the bed. "Who is that sleeping with you?" asking the teenage boy. Naruto raised his eyebrow in confusion before looking at the other side. It was then that he saw Mai starting to rise onto her feet after falling to the floor. "Mai, what are you doing in my bed?" blushed Naruto while asking his friend. Mai was wearing a large short-sleeve sports jersey as her pajamas. The shirt just barely passed her thighs while the top part showed a bit of her cleavage. "It was cold last night, so to keep warm I slept with you," Mai replied. "Why couldn't you just get a spare blanket? There was one in the closet of the room," Naruto pointed out. "True, but sleeping with you was better. And besides, it's not like you're not used to sleeping with me given the times that we've been on mission together," Mai explained. Naruto sighed at Mai's explanation before looking back at Rainier, who still had a red face. Rainier, what do you want?" asked Naruto. "Oh, I just want to wake you up so you won't be late to school," Rainier replied while keeping her true intent a secret. "Oh, thanks," he said before looking at the time on his cell that was located on his sleep stand next to his bed. "Ah shit, I'm late," he said before going for his academy clothes. He looked back at the two women before he left his room. "We'll talk about this later." Leaving the two of them alone, Mai and Rainier looked at each other where the raven hair woman glared at Mai. Mai noticed this where she looked at her confusedly before she smirked at the realization. "You have a thing for Naruto-kun, don't you?" asked Mai. What do you mean?" Rainier questioned. "You know what I mean. In fact, I know that a lot of fallen angel woman of our generation has a thing for him. So I shouldn't be surprised." Mai replied as she walked off to go use the bathroom. It was then that Rainier decided to ask some questions of her own. "Wait a sec, who are you? And how do you know Naruto-sama?" questioned Rainier. "My name is Mai, I'm the daughter of Shemazai," Mai stated about herself. Rainier looked surprised since she knows who Shemazai is, as he was second in command of the Grigori. With that, Mai unleashed her two black wings while holding back her devil power to show her ranking. With that, Rainier looked at Mai with a deadpan face while trying to show that she wasn't intimidated from Mai's presence. Before she can continue to question her, the brunette continued to speak to her. "Also, if curious on how I know him, it's because he and I work together on missions sometimes," said Mai. "I see," Rainier replied. "Yes," where Mai smirked at deciding to play with Rainier a bit. "And because of that, it's not unusual for us to sleep together in the same bed. To tell you the truth, I actually sleep better while I sleep in his arms since he sometimes wrapped them around me, like in our last mission where we slept in the same bed together." Hearing his heartbeat as I lay my head on his chest was very soothing, Mai remarked where Rainier blushed at hearing her statement. Mai then left the room to freshen up since she needs to get some things ready as she has to finish her transcript in order to transfer into Kuo Academy. Before she can respond, Rainier heard Naruto yell out into his home. "Okay, I'm off. Mai-chan, don't do anything that will piss of the others in here." Naruto explained where Mai agreed. Once he left, Calawarner and Middle walked out to see that Mai heading towards the bathroom. As they wondered on who Mai was, Rainier wondered if she can ask Azazel if she can work alongside Naruto on some missions. Afternoon, Naruto was lying, on his back with his eyes closed, on the soft grass as he tried to put everything that was happening in his life right now. His biggest issue was Mai moving in with him, thanks to Azazel's opinion. Another was on figuring out on what Issei's sacred gear. His other problem was Donasek since he got a bad feeling that he was up to something. Before he can try and guess on what Donasek was planning on doing, he felt a tensing gaze fall upon him from a familiar presence standing above him. Naruto opened his eyes to see that it was Rias Gremory. From his point of view, Naruto can see that Rias was upset, angry about something that involved him or someone like him. As Naruto laid there, looking up at Rias, he decided to break the ice and asked her on why she was such a bad mood. "Hello Rias-san, what's up? And why are you looking at me like you want to disintegrate me or something? Is it because I can see underneath your skirt where I'm having a good view of you black thong? If it is, then it's not my fault that you're giving me a view," smirked Naruto. Rias looked a little peeved about giving Naruto a good glimpse of her underwear, but decided to worry about that for later since she needed to know about something else. "I'm actually interested to know about the rogue exorcist that I and my peerage encountered last night," Rias asked. "Rogue exorcist?" Naruto curiously asked. "Yes, last night, Issei was doing a contract for Akano since she was busy with something else. Instead on performing a contract, he found himself in trouble against a rogue exorcist that almost killed him if we haven't intervened. I'm curious to know if you know anything about it," questioned Rias as she narrowed her eyes at Naruto. "Is that so? Interesting," Naruto muttered out as if he was thinking about something. "So, is the rogue exorcist working for you or not?" Rias asked as she was losing a bit of patience. "Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't use priest or exorcist since I personally like to do jobs myself. Although you just got me thinking about something though," Naruto admitted to her, getting Rias curious about his last sentence. "Oh, and what would that be?" the redhead curiously asking. "I've been having a strange feeling that one of my subordinates has a hidden agenda that he's hiding behind my back." "Out of curiosity, was there anything else that happened last night?" asked Naruto. "No, just the attack except there was someone else. A young nun named Asia, from what Issei told me," Rias said. "Interesting," Naruto muttered out before getting himself up and stretch a bit. He then looked at Rias. "Well, I'm going to investigate on the matter." Personally, I don't know what any of my subordinates are doing since I ordered them on not doing anything that has to do with fighting or violence. So now if you excuse me, before I can deal with the issue with my subordinates I got some work to do which would take some time. Naruto explained. After finishing his explanation, he unleashed his 2 pairs of black wings before taking off into the air. As he left, Rias looked a bit surprised to see that Naruto was a 2-set fallen angel. It wasn't till he left that Rias smiled a bit since she got the hidden meaning of what he wanted her to do with them. I'm guessing Naruto-san is giving me someone new to add to my group. Rias thought as she remembered on what Issei told her about Asia. Currently, Naruto is once again in his home office, looking over sacred gears from the Grigori Secure Network. He programmed his laptop to search for identical or closely resembled items that would fit the description to Issei's sacred gear. As the computer was going through his search program, Naruto was looking into something that has been bugging him for a bit. Just as he was looking over some files, Mai came walking into his room. She saw him having his back against her where she was delighted about it since she wanted to surprise him with something. Once inside the room, Mai walked close to the balcony entrance since the penthouse balcony extend around most of the house. Near the window, where the sun was setting, Mai coughed loudly enough before she spoke to him. "Hey Naruto, look over here." "What is it, Mai? Can't you see that I'm busy with something?" Naruto responded where Mai got a tick mark on her head. The brunette grumbled a bit before she calmed herself. "I know that, but I just need your opinion on something." Getting the blonde-haired teenager to turn to her as he asked, "On what you need my help with?" "With this uniform?" Mai responded. Naruto looked towards Mai where he widened his eyes a bit as he drank the view on what Mai was wearing. Mai was wearing the Kuo Academy girl's uniform where he admitted to himself that she looked splendid, especially since it left little to the imagination on how well-toned and curvy her body is. Mai mentally smirked at the reaction that she got from Naruto's face. She took a small breath before speaking to him again. "So, what do you think?" Mai asked as she did a little spin for him. What can I say?" Naruto responded since he can't find the words that would match on what he was seeing. He admitted to himself that Mai looked beautiful in the academy uniform, just as beautiful as Akano. Before anything else could be said, they both heard Naruto's laptop beeping, implying that it has completed the search. Shaking his head, the teenage blonde walked towards his laptop where he looked at the screen. Checking on the results, Naruto looked a bit surprised on what he found. Mai saw Naruto's sudden surprised look where she asked him, "What is it, Naruto? Did something come up?" Mai asked. "Yeah, it seems that Gremory-san has gotten something that she'll either regret or enjoy having in her peerage." Naruto responded where he then closed the laptop since he was done with it. Looking over at Mai, Naruto said, "Alright, since tonight's show won't start until a little later, want to go out for some dinner?" Asking his female friend. "Sure, but out of curiosity, what did you find out?" Mai wondered. "Oh, if things go well, you'll see it later tonight. So I suggest that you wear something casual about it." Naruto responded where they both got ready to eat out for the night. Later, outside the abandoned church, Issei, along with Kiba and Kaneko, were heading towards the main entrance of the building where they'll soon fight against the fallen angel and any of their allies. The reason for them being here was to rescue Issei's friend, the young nun known as Asia. Earlier, Issei had met up with Asia after not going to school today. When they reunited, Issei invited Asia on an outing around the town where they ate, played games and such. But all happy moments come to end when Donasek flew down on their outing. It was there that Issei learned that Asia had run away from the fallen angels since she didn't like on what they were doing. Issei did his best to ward off the fallen angel. He even used his red sacred gear, the bracer, to help him out, but it didn't do much since Issei wasn't familiar with its power just yet. Almost being killed, Asia stepped in front of him again where she agreed to go with Donasek if he let Issei live. He agreed but left after giving Issei another injury. Returning to the clubroom, Issei explained to Rias on what happened to him and Asia where he wanted her help to rescue her. Rias, of course, shot down the matter since the battle between them could be problem and cause a rift within the faction of the devils and fallen angels. Issei argued about it but Rias wouldn't budge where she ended the conversation as she needed to do something with Akano. Leaving the clubroom, Issei prepared on heading towards the abandoned church alone but was grateful to see that Kiba and Kaneko come along. Kiba came since he has a strong sense of honor when it came to his comrades, where he helped them out, while Kaneko came along since she was worried about the two of them. Back to the front of the church, Kiba and Kaneko were ready to storm inside the church and begin the rescue mission. Forest area. Just near the abandoned church, the three female fallen angels were sitting on a branch. Middle, Calawarner, and Rainier were waiting in the forest, where the latter had a frustrated look on her face. "Why did we have to end up with lookout duty?" Middle childishly asked. "Because Donasek asked us to as a favor to him. Just relax, the ceremony is almost over," Calawarner said. Rainier sighed. "I just hope whatever he is doing would soon be over with. I rather spend my time doing something more productive than waiting out here," she stated. "Like trying to get into Naruto-sama's bed," said Middle with a mischievous look on her face. What are you talking about?" Rainier responded with blush on her cheeks. "Oh, don't be like that. We know that you want to try and sleep with him just like that, my girl," smirked Calawarner as she remarked on what she remembered that morning where Rainier found out about Mai sleeping next to Naruto. "I don't know what you're talking about," Rainier said as she tried to deny it. It was there that she decided to spread her wings out. Rainier looked at the other two. "Okay. I've had enough waiting, I'm going to see Donasek and figure out on what he is doing," she said before flying towards the church. Calawarner and Middle had a monotone look before the both started to laugh at what they just did to Rainier. It was then that their laughter died when they saw a magical circle appear in front of them. Walking out of the magical circle were Akano and Rias. "Looks like we have some excitement now. This is good since I was getting bored on just waiting here." "Hello there, I am known as the Fallen Angel Middle," said the young blonde as she landed on the ground in front of them. Era, what an interesting girl," Akano remarked as she placed a hand on her cheek. "And who's your friend?" asking the young-looking fallen angel. Calawarner, introducing herself as she landed next to Middle. Rias walked forward with an amused look on her face. "We must have put a lot of fear into you all to actually put guards over here," she stated. "Now really, we just needed to make sure the ceremony isn't interrupted." Middle replied. "Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but we already have a group who are most likely entering the building as we speak," Akano commented. "Seriously?" Middle exclaimed as she turned around to look in the direction of the church. "Yup, they went through the front doors," Rias answered with a smirk, where the girl let out a frustrated yell. "I told you I handled the back by myself, but you were too stubborn to believe me. This is on you," Calawarner said as she gave her ally a blank look. "Just be glad that Rainier had went back to the church before these two came here." "Oh, shut up. I thought they would be coming through the back," Middle shouted before calming herself, where she looked back at the devils with a cold smile. "Oh well, this just make things interesting since the odds are now even. Especially since you two are the more dangerous out of the others if I'm correct. So why are you two here instead with the others? Are they decoys?" questioned Middle. "No, let's just say that we're their backup," Rias answered. "Oh well, let's just get this party started," Middle stated, where both fallen angels took to the air. "Akano," Rias signaled, where the young raven hair woman walked forward as she used her power to change her outfit. With a bolt of lightning striking her from above, Akino's academy uniform was replaced with a traditional Miko outfit, where she changed into her Priestess of Thunder mode. Channeling some of her magic, along with a few hand signs, she casted a large, powerful barrier around the four beings. "A barrier," Calawarner exclaimed as she looked at her surrounds. "And a fierce one at that," added Middle as she noticed the sparks of electricity on the magical seal. Akano gave a few of her fingertips an erotic lick. Her face was a little flustered as she spoke. "You two aren't leaving this forest. You bitch, this was what you wanted all along," Calawarner shouted angrily. Ria's smirk grew as she stared up at the woman. "Of course, and even though only half of you are here, we can still get rid of the filth." Where the two attacked the two devils, Akano stepped in front of her cane, where she used her magic to create a defense that shielded them from the light spears that the two thrown at them. Middle and Calawarner were ready to throw another barrage of light spears at them, but stopped when Rias walked forward. "I won't forgive those who attack my queen. I won't forgive those who attack my precious peerage," Rias stated, where she gathered her powers in front of her in the form of a black, red outline orb. The two fallen angels felt the power that Rias was gathering, where the two grew nervous about it. "Be gone," Rias stated as she fired her power at the two. Middlet and Calawarner screamed out in fear as the attack made contact where the only thing left from them were just a few black feathers. Looking at what she did, she placed her attention on the church building where she thought to herself, now then, all that's left is for them to finish up over there. Church building. Issei, Kiba, and Kaneko made into the hidden cavern that was underneath the church. They were able to find it after their little run-in with the rogue priest, Freed. The moment they entered the church, they were ambushed by the lunatic of an exorcist. After a bit of fighting, Freed escaped the three devils where they then went into the cavern. After a bit of running, the three found the hidden room that held not only Asia, but a room filled with rogue priests. On the altar, Asia was strapped onto a cross wearing a small sleeveless white dress that stopped just past her hips where Donasek was finishing up the ceremony. Asia, Issei cried out. Issei-san, Asia muttered out as she looked in front of her to see him. We've come to save you, Issei declared. Donasek looked at them with a cold smile at hearing Issei's declaration. This is very heartwarming, however you're too late. The ceremony has just about ended. Donasek declared where he placed his hands on Asia's chest. From Asia's chest, a bright light began to come out from her where Asia cried out in pain from what the ceremony. It was around this time that an orb of light slowly appeared out of Asia where it then manifested itself into two rings. Donasek looked very pleased about this where he then laughed hysterically at getting his prize. I finally have on what I need. Twilight healing. With this, her attention to that bastard will turn to me. The older man stated. When Issei heard on what Donasek wanted from Asia was to impress a woman, he growled at Donasek. That's why you wanted Asia. Only for her power to use as a present for some girl that you like. I'm going to kick your ass for doing that, Issei stated. It was then that all three club members charged directly at the rogue priests that were in the room. As the three fought against each of their own opponent, Rainier appeared out of nowhere where she flew right towards the ceremony altar where Donasek was at. The raven hair woman landed next to Donasek as he finished his gloating. He turned to greet her and to brag about his success. Ah, Rainier, you came at a good time. I've just obtained a very special gift that I'm sure you'll be pleased at having, the sacred gear, Twilight Healing. Donasek smiled. Donasek presented Rainier the rings of Twilight Healing in a gentleman-like way where she couldn't help but marvel at them. But before she could even get a hold of them, they heard Issei shout at them. Yuma-chan, you're the one that this creep was talking about, looking at disbelief at the woman that killed him. Oh, has he been talking about me? It doesn't really matter, but I must admit that his gift is really rare and valuable one, stated Rainier while she gazed at the rings. Before anything else could be said, Issei rushed towards them where he used his sacred gear to punch one of the rogue priests directly at the two fallen angels. This caused them to move back, which Issei took advantage to get to Asia. Appearing right by her side, Issei quickly released her from her binds where he got her down from the altar. Donasek saw what Issei was doing where he smiled evilly at him. You can go ahead and take the girl. I've already gotten what I want from her, Donasek said. Asia, Issei softly spoke to her where she weakly opened her eyes to look at him. Issei-san, she muttered in a weak voice which it was getting weaker. Asia, oi, what's wrong? Issei spoke out loud. Oh, you didn't know that once stripped of their sacred gear, the person will die. Donasek explained where Issei looked stunned. Issei growled a bit before looking at Asia again as she was panting softly. Before he could do anything else, a rogue priest sudden came from behind him where he was caught off guard. Luckily, the priest was cut off when another priest collided with him thanks to Kaneko. It was there that Kiba and Kaneko came to Issei's side where they helped guard him. Issei-san, we can't fight with you taking care of the girl, Kaneko stated. You take the girl out of here to a safe place, Kiba asked. But Kiba, I can't leave you and Kaneko alone, Issei said. Don't worry about us, we'll hold them off. You just focus on getting the girl out of here, Kiba said with a smirk where Kaneko also nodded and agreed. Arigato Kiba-san, Kaneko-san. Issei lifted Asia in a princess cradle and took her out of the hidden cavern. As Issei was leaving, Kiba and Kaneko looked up to see Donasek and Rainier were preparing to fight them where the two devils couldn't help but be a bit nervous. After running for a bit, Issei made it out of the underground cavern where he placed Asia on one of the benches so he could check on her condition. When he checked on her, he saw that she was no longer responding where he knew what it meant. He began to shed tears as he can see now that Asia has passed away. As he shed tears, he heard someone laughing at him where he turned to see Donasek standing nearby him. As he looked at Donasek's sick smile, he walked closer to Issei where the brunette boy went to a protective stance in front of Asia's body. My, to think the reason you came here was to rescue a little girl. Were you hoping to be her knight in shining armor? Ha 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 ha, it's so hysterical, laughed the older male. Shut up, Issei growled as he put all his attention on the cocky bastard in front of him. Someone like you who only takes advantage of other people doesn't deserve to have anyone, he said. Before Donasek could respond, both their attention turned to the footsteps that came towards them. They turned to see Rainier walking towards them with a bit of an injury on her arm. Both looked at the raven-hair girl who didn't look tired. Era, you're sure taking your time. I just took care of those two friends of his. I left them in a vulnerable state where the rest of the exorcist can finish them off. Although I have to admit that sword-wielding boy was pretty good since he gave me this cut on my arm, Rainier explained as she showed her left arm with a slight cut. Donasek looked eager where he got right next Rainier. He held his hand in front of Rainier where it held the twilight healing rings. Here Ray, I believe this would help take care of that little scratch, he commented. Rainier took the rings, placing it on her fingers, where she then used it to heal her cut while she said, thanks Donasek. With this power, I will be able to heal myself from any injury I receive. After all, I do want to look my best in front of him, Rainier stated as she had a blush on her cheeks as she imagined Naruto's face. Donasek looked shocked before he snarled out loud at what Rainier stated. He then went up to her with a questioning look. Rainier, why are you fascinated with that bastard? I was able to get you this extremely rare sacred gear and yet you still have your eyes on him. What's so special about him that you can't see in me? Donasek. Rainier looked at Donasek for a bit as she was going to explain to him but was stopped when Issei joined in the conversation. To think that you went through all this trouble, just to impress a girl that already has a thing for someone else. Even though I may not look as cool as Kiba, at least I'm not that foolish to do all this, said with a mocking voice. The older male just growled at the insult that Issei gave him where he attacked him with two light spears. Issei didn't have the reaction time or room to dodge where he got struck on both his legs. Issei struggled to stay standing as the light spears were still embedded in his thighs. Donasek looked at the struggling brunette. My, you are still able to stand even with the pain that the light spears still active, he commented. So what? The pain in these stupid light spears mean nothing compared to Asia's pain, Issei said as he painfully pulled out the spears out of his legs where blood gushed out from both legs. I'm impressed that you've come this far, despite being a low-level devil, Rainier said as Issei fell on his ass. But it seems to be your limit. Any other low-level devil would be dead by now. You're much more resilient than I had thought. Well, in any case, we should leave now Donasek since it's getting late. Finish off the devil and let's go, she ordered. Donasek glared at her before he nodded in agreement. As Donasek prepared to finish Issei, the young devil muttered something to himself. Kami-sama. No, he won't listen to me. Mao-sama. Listen to my prey. Issei said it louder where the two fallen angels looked at him. What are you talking about now? Has the pain finally made you go insane? Donasek questioned. I beg of you. I don't need anything else. Where Issei, with great struggle, began to rise and stand on his own 2 feet again. Please, give me the strength to make these two bastards cry, he cried out loud. High School DxD Ost. See ya Celebi. When he got onto his feet, Donasek and Rainier were in disbelief. Rainier was the first to get out of the stun expression where she looked upon the brunette. He shouldn't be able to stand up. His blood should be zapped away from the light. There isn't any low-level devil who can just ignore off light damage, she stated as both she and Donasek stepped back a couple paces as Issei moved closer to them with his devil wings spread out. Oh, it hurts, he responded as he glared at both his opponents. It fucking hurts. It feels like my body is going to blow itself to bits. However, the only thing I feel right now is the desire to fucking kill you, Issei shouted. It was there that the green gem on his sacred gear glowed brighter before it shouted out. Explosion, where only Issei could hear it. His bracer changed into a different form. It was now a red, claw-shaped gauntlet with yellow accents and green inscriptions. Issei held it up over his head where the gem unleashed a beam of green light into the sky. Both fallen angels looked in disbelief at what was happening now. His power beam? In his condition? Impossible. How could his sacred gear? How can a simple twice critical? Rainier fearfully said as both the two moved back a bit. It was there that Donasek just pushed her forward, closer to Issei. Sorry Ray, but since you're not interested in me we'll just separate it from here. Donasek said as he moved back. Rainier looked in disbelief at what Donasek just did but then put her attention back on Issei, who moved closer to her with glaring eyes. She quickly summoned a light spear where she threw it at him. Stay back. Issei saw the spear coming where he decided to use to his advantage since his real target was the one that was trying to get away. Using his new gauntlet, he deflected the light spear away from him, sending it directly at behind Rainier. The light spear traveled a bit before it hit its intended target, Donasek's leg, where it traveled down further before pinning him into the ground. Rainier tried to fly away in a dash only for Issei to leap towards her where he caught her right arm. You're not leaving, Issei ordered. How can a low level? Rainier said before Issei cut her off. You're a fucking angel, so fly. He said as punched her face where she was sent flying through a wall with her screaming in pain. End Ost. Issei was satisfied when he punched Rainier in the face but began to feel his strength leaving him. Before he fell, Kiba came to his side to help steady him. You defeated 2 fallen angels by yourself, huh? Kiba commented where he can see Donasek struggling from the spear that was embedded in him. Took y'all long enough, pretty boy. Issei replied. It was there that Kiba explained to him that Rias told him to not to since he was not to interfere with it. They then heard Rias from the other side of the room as she commented on what she wanted to see and such. Kiba explained that after Rainier injured them, both he and Kaneko were at the mercy of the rest of the rogue exorcist. Fortunately for the both of them, Rias arrived in time to save them. Man, I feel like an idiot for worrying about you, admitted Issei as he was relieved to know that the two were okay. It was then that Kaneko came walking into the room. Bucko. I brought what you requested. Dragging Rainier with her after her sudden trip. As Kaneko moved forward, she kept her distance from Donasek, who was still pinned down from Rainier's spear. Tossing Rainier at Rias' feet, Kaneko moved away from her where Rias had both her and Donasek's attention. Nice to meet you, fallen angels. Rainier. Donasek. I am Rias Gremory, heir to the Gremory clan. Rias politely greeted her enemies. You're a daughter of the Gremory clan? Rainier muttered out. High school DxD Ost. For me, live on. Pleased to meet your acquaintance, although I'm sure we won't know each other for much longer. And also, Rias lifted her hand where she released a few black feathers. Both your friends who came to greet me, I sent them flying away. Where both fallen angels had stunned looks on their faces. Issei wondered on what Rias meant, where Kiba explained that Rias is known by a few titles such as the red-haired ruined princess. Looks like I got more than I bargained for in my master. Issei commented on it. The daughter of Gremory, how dare you? Donasek sneered at them. Ever since you targeted Issei, we got wind of a fallen angel plot in play in this city. If you hadn't interfered with us, I would have left you alone. Rias stated. It was then that Rias looked at Issei where she saw his sacred gear has transformed, where Issei explained that it changed during the fight. Rias gazed at the red gauntlet where she was amazed on what she now sees. A red dragon. A voice said where everyone's gaze went to the front of the building where they looked into the building's shadows. Coming forward, everyone saw a young man walking towards them. Only when the moonlight revealed the person did everyone saw who it was. Issei gasped as she saw who it was. Naruto-senpai, in shock. Naruto-sama, Rainier gleefully called out. Naruto coolly walked towards them where Donasek snarled at how Naruto acted in front of him. As he moved closer, he started to explain to them about the gauntlet. There is something that you two should know. That sacred gear isn't twice critical. Getting worried looks from Rainier and Donasek. It increases the wearer's power twice every 10 seconds, where it can even kill gods. The Longinus, the Red Dragon Emperor's Gauntlet? Boosted gear, Naruto explained, all the while both fallen angels' eyes continued to wide at every word that he said before being shocked at the revelation, as he stopped right next to Donasek. Sighing for a bit, Naruto changed his view from the gauntlet back to Rias. Although the kid doesn't look like much, you definitely gotten an interesting servant. Naruto stated before he turned his gaze to Rainier. Get up Rainier, it's time for us to go. Naruto stated in a serious tone. Rainier did what Naruto ordered, where she slowly crawled away from Rias and her peerage. The red-headed devil was going to stop her but halted when she saw Naruto summon a weapon in his right hand. Naruto's weapon was a chakram, Xena Yin-Yang Season 6, that had a yellow gem on one side of the grip while the circular blade had a white-black flame design on both sides. Having a calm look on his face, Naruto kept a good eye on Rainier, where she continued to move closer to him. Rias's peerage looked on where Kiba summoned one of his demonic swords while Kaneko and Issei prepare themselves. When Rainier made it to his side, she wobbly got herself up onto her feet, where she struggled to stay standing. While keeping his gaze on the Gremory heiress, Naruto spoke to the raven-hair girl. "Are you alright?" asking his female comrade. "I'm fine," answering the young blonde. "I can't move that well, so I need a bit of help," Donasek replied. Rainier narrowed her eyes on him while Naruto kept his neutral look. It was then that Rainier told him something. "Naruto-sama, the Gremory devil has taken out Kalawarner and Mitlet," telling him the situation. "Don't worry about them, they're both safe." Naruto explained, where Rainier, along with Rias and her peerage, were surprised to know on what happened with the other two fallen angels. Since the Gremory heiress isn't that experienced in finishing off an opponent yet, she didn't notice the split second her attack hit was the moment that I came and pulled both of them away while leaving a dozen or so of black feathers to fool her with. Naruto finished. Rias narrowed her eyes at what Naruto just said, where she looked displeased at being duped like that, as well as wondered on how he came into the barrier that was around them as well. Rainier looked pleased, where she was glad that they were fine. Although she was glad that the others were alright, Rainier wasn't doing any good since she was still injured. Before things could go off topic, Naruto placed his gaze at Donasek, where he felt his spine freeze a bit. "Now for you, let me ask you on what I ordered you to do," Naruto ordered. Donasek narrowed his eyes as he snarled at him, where Naruto answered for him. "I said that you could do anything as long as it didn't cause in trouble for humans or any of the other factions," he stated. Not exactly the same thing but close to it. Taking a deep breath, Naruto turned back to Rias. "Even though the situation with Hyodo Issei was unintended result, I can let that go," he stated, where Rainier looked relief about it. However, Naruto's attention changed back to Donasek. "But since you're the one that caused this much trouble with the Gremory and her peerage, it's only fair that she gets to decide your fate," Naruto explained. Donasek's eyes widened in surprise while Rainier smiled at what Naruto declared, where middle-aged fallen angel was going to strike the blonde but wasn't able to do it when Naruto kicked him hard, where the light spear that held him to the ground shattered. Being forced back, the older male was thrown directly at Rias' feet. Looking up, Donasek saw Rias' eyes look down at him with disgust. He shook in fear as Rias raised her hand with her power encircling in her hand. "Now then, for causing us trouble, disappear," Rias said, where she launched her attack at Donasek, which he screamed his last scream as Rias turned him into dust while his few remaining black feathers fell to the ground. When that was over, Rias and her peerage turned to Naruto, who had Rainier right behind him. After a moment or two of intense silence, Rias spoke up. "So, now with that issue is over with, what's going to happen now?" asking Naruto. "I believe you already know the answer to that question," where he paid attention to Rainier, who was still a little wobbly. He immediately picked her up like a princess, where a pink blush appeared on her cheeks. The others could see the blush on Rainier's face, where they figured that she's got a crush on Naruto. However, Issei had a depressing look, since he can see that his first girlfriend actually had the hots for his senior. As he walked away, he suddenly stopped, where he looked at Rainier. "Oh, I almost forgot." Rainier, holding her with one hand while bringing his other hand he held up in front of her face, "Hand them over," Naruto asked. Rainier looked confused a bit before she got what her crush wanted from her. Being a bit hesitant, she gave up the Twilight Healing Rings to Naruto, where he held them in his hand. Turning back at Rias and her peerage. "Oh, and here Hyodo-san," getting his attention. Naruto, using his power, threw the rings with gentle force, where the Sakuryute caught them in his hands. "I believe that belongs to the young lady," he implied. Issei looked at the rings, where he smiled at what Naruto gave to him. The other devils had actually forgotten about the sacred gear, where they were glad about it. Before Rias could instruct the others on what to do, Naruto turned his back at them, where he said one more thing. "Oh, and Gremory-san," getting the busty redhead's attention. I keep a good eye on the girl, since there's a dark shadow that is looming over her. A shadow that will soon bear its fangs on all of you. See you at school, Naruto stated where he left the church with Reiner in his arms. As Rias gazed upon Naruto's leave, she can't help but linger on Naruto's last words. She decided to find out about it later since she now has a new piece to resurrect. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.